Okay, 2 more minutes and then we'll start. Okay, I think it's time to start. So welcome everyone to this special meeting to address what lies ahead after the devastating wildfire. Although we won't be holding a regular business meeting tonight, we'll begin as we have done at every PPCC meeting for more than 50 years by reading our mission statement. The purpose of the Pacific Palisades Community Council shall be to 1, be a forum for the consideration of community issues, 2, be an advocate for Pacific Palisades to government and private agencies upon issues where there is broad community agreement, as reflected by 2/3 of the board members voting on any one of those issues at a PPCC meeting. And 3, assist other organizations in the Palisades which want help in accomplishing their objectives or projects which the PPCC determines to support. My name is Sue Cole, and I am currently the president of the Pacific Palisades Community Council. Like so many of you, my family and I have experienced unimaginable losses. Our home, our entire neighborhood, and all of the indescribably wonderful businesses and places that we have all grown to love over so many years. It's completely heartbreaking and devastating for all of us. Our town has been decimated. That being said, our fantastic community lives on. Fire might destroy our homes and our buildings, but there is no way that our Palisades community could ever be destroyed. We are too strong, too resilient, and too intent on coming back. We will support each other every step of the way, and we will stand together in this enormous effort to rebuild and to bring back everything we lost and everyone we love. I, like you, have faith that we will be back stronger than ever. There is no question about it, because that is who we are. This meeting will focus entirely on obtaining substantive information from our key elected officials about recovery from the devastating fire and the road ahead for the Palisades community. Please note that we are recording this meeting so that residents who are unable to be here with us tonight will be able to either watch it or listen to it later on. Now it is my honor to introduce our esteemed officials who will be speaking tonight. First, we have Karen Bass, our mayor of the city of Los Angeles. And along with Mayor Bass, we have Randall Winston, Deputy Mayor for Infrastructure, and Nancy Sutley, Deputy Mayor for Energy and Sustainability. We have our incredible Tracy Park. What? Councilwoman for CD 11 in Los Angeles. We have Nathan Hoffman, our district attorney for the county of Los Angeles. We have Jim McDonnell, chief of LAPD. Kristen Crowley, chief of LAFD. Nick Melvoin, member LAUSD Board of Education, District 4. Dr. Pamela McGee, Principal of Palisades Charter High School. Lindsay Horvath, Los Angeles County Supervisor for District 3. Jackie Irwin, State Assembly Member, District 42. Ben Allen, our State Senator for District 24. Brad Sherman was unable to be with us tonight, unfortunately, but he has sent members of his staff, Scott Abrams, District Director, and John Alford, Senior Policy Advisor. We have Chief Brandon Gunn from CalFire. So those are all the people that we have tonight who are going to be very helpful in speaking and answering your questions. Following the officials' remarks, we will take written questions for the guest speakers posed in the meeting chat by attendees. Questions may be directed to any one of our officials, or they can be directed to anyone. The chat will be monitored by Chair Emeritus Miriam Czar and at-large representative and past president Chris Spitz, who will read the questions to the officials. In the interest of time, any duplicate questions will be combined into one question. We're going to try and get through as much as we possibly can. We ask that the questions be respectful and focused on current needs and what we can expect from our government agencies as we move forward in attempting to rebuild our beautiful town. PPCC is an all-volunteer advisory organization with the mission of providing a forum for consideration of community issues, advocating to government officials where there is consensus, and protecting the quality of life in the Palisades. Our board members are grief-stricken, frustrated, and angry, along with other community members. We hope and trust that ongoing investigations will eventually provide answers as to how and why this unprecedented, catastrophic event occurred. That said, this meeting will not be a forum for blame, accusations, or speculation about the causes of the fire, but will instead be centered constructively on obtaining information about what lies ahead for us all. Also, in case any of your questions are not answered, rest assured, we're going to be scheduling more meetings very, very soon, and we will be including other additional agencies who are not here tonight. We thank our elected officials so very much in advance for speaking with us and providing critical information and answering our questions. So with that, I would like to welcome and open with our esteemed Mayor, Karen Bass. I'm pretty sure Karen Bass is here.
Yes,
Okay.
I was just trying to unmute.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you tonight. And let me just begin by saying the devastation, the loss, the grief, the anger, the shock of what everybody has been through, and going through the area and seeing that devastation where I've seen from an aerial view as well as driving through and walking through the area is unimaginable. And so I just want you to know that my heart goes out to all of you as we go through this period. I think, am I off camera? Am I muted again? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. So I just want you to know that I am absolutely committed 150% to making sure that the Palisades is rebuilt completely. That is my commitment and my dedication. As the loss that you're going through, I share indirectly. It's hit my family too. My brother, who has lived in Malibu for 40 years, been through many fires, evacuated many times, this time didn't get away. And it was my family home where we went on the holidays. And it's a type of shock and grief that is trauma that will be with us for a long time. And I think about the children who left their home, and how do you explain that to a child, that the home that they've been in is no longer there? In City Hall, we always worry about red tape and that it's difficult to get things done. And I want you to know that red tape is frankly never acceptable, but it is absolutely not going to happen this time. I've done executive directives to make sure that that won't happen, but I just want you to know of my dedication and my commitment. You lose a house, but it's not just a house, it's everything that's in that house. It's the memories, it's the experiences that are gone, but I am committed to making sure that Palisades comes back and that we're going to stand together as a community. The other thing I want to tell you is that the elected officials that are on the line here, I hope they don't mind if I speak on all of our behalf to say that we all work together. And I know that we're all committed to doing whatever it takes to make sure that the community is whole again. I've been on the ground working with a former Palisade resident that I know many of you know, Stephen Soberoff, who has come on board as the Chief Recovery Officer. And we are preparing for the rebuild, but we have to get past one more hurdle. And that's the hurdle that might happen over the weekend. I certainly hope it doesn't, but we have 50% chance of rain both Saturday and Sunday. I started off my morning with your council member, Tracy Park, who the two of us have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years and have worked very closely together and are going to continue to do that. I know in addition to the elected officials, there's also experts that are on the line to answer any questions that you might have, if it's concerning repopulation or when it's safe to go back. And I am hoping that if we get past this weekend without the rains, without problems in the hillside, that pretty soon the area will be open and that we won't have to deal with the restrictions that we're facing now. So I am confident that Palisades will come back and come back better, and I'll be there with you every step of the way. And I want you to know that to me, this is not a one-off. I hope to begin next week a series of community conversations with me and with whoever you need to have answers to your questions. And I will be happy to be on the calls as long as possible to answer any questions that you might have of me or what is going on in City Hall. A couple of hours ago, I was with the governor where he signed the legislation that will bring over $1 billion into the area. And I also met with the Senate president, who was asking me, even after the resources that the governor and the legislature brought in, he wanted to know what else was needed. And I will just tell you that the spirit in that room is such that we are all going to stand together until the Palisades is built back and built back stronger and better. And this is a community that has been around for a long time and will continue to be there. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you this evening. And I want to view this as the beginning. I think one of the most important things that I can do and we can do is to be in constant communication. It is so easy for misinformation and confusion and rumors to take over. And if we stand strong with your organizations, we'll be able to overcome that. And I will always be accessible to you. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you this evening.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bass. Appreciate it. Now we have our Councilwoman Tracy Park.
Hi, can you hear me, Sue?
Yes.
Thank you, Sue, for having me tonight, and thank you to all of our PPC officers for your leadership during this crisis. We have been in regular communication, many of us throughout, and I am so grateful to your leadership and your ongoing partnership as we continue to navigate our way through this crisis. Just to briefly echo the sentiments of Mayor Bass, the range of emotions this week and last
I know, I saw that.
have been widespread. The panic, the shock, the fear, the grief, the anger. And I just want to acknowledge that nothing any of us say tonight can undo what happened. I know that there's no apology that will ease the trauma that the Palisades community is going through. And I wanted to acknowledge also that I have shared many of your frustrations, slow communication, lack of details, too many questions without decent answers. You folks need to know whether to rent a place for 6 months or a year. And those details are often hard to come by because we just don't really fully know. I know the repopulation efforts into Palisades have been clunky and slow, but I also want to assure you that more access is going to open up in coming days. I also want you to know that hundreds of workers have been on the ground, clearing downed power lines, downed trees, shutting off broken pipes, sweeping up nails, trying to restore communication systems and make the area safe enough for you to come back. Homes have been inspected and tagged, and I want you to know that my team and I have been on the ground ourselves, walking your neighborhoods, pulling your trash cans back into your driveways. And personally, if I see a clay pot or a stone figurine and I can reach it, I'm leaving it where I think your front door was. So when you come back, there will be something familiar, not just a pile of ash. I want you to know when you do come back, it is going to be hard to see your home and your community. It's mostly gone, and the scale of the loss is certainly staggering, but we don't want you to see it alone, and we don't want you to feel unsupported. So when you go, you're going to see a heavy presence of firefighters and city workers, the mayor's crisis team. My team will be on the ground. If you have any questions, we're there to try to help in all of the ways that we can. We are all worried about the wet weather. I wanted to let you know that I have personally been out on reconnaissance missions today all over the Palisades. Miriam Czar, thank you so much for your help identifying the locations where we already know we have risks and challenges. I also wanted to let you guys know I shared all of that information with our partners at the city and at the state. They're doing all that they can to bring resources to the ground to prepare for the wet weather. And I know a lot of you have questions about whether you can go in and can you do some work by yourself. I'll defer that to CalFire. They're here to answer those questions. They make those decisions as part of our unified command. I also wanted to let you know that I am personally pushing to get you all back as fast as you can. I know you need to see your homes. You need that moment of closure. You want to see what's left. And I'm going to be here with you through that process. And I hope that it happens for everyone soon. I wanted to let you also know that after a week of recess, after the fire began, City Council is back in full swing. We created the ad hoc committee for LA recovery. And that work and the work ahead is where my heart is now. And I know you need me here on the ground. So I've stepped away from my role as chair of the Olympics to lead our new committee. It'll be a platform to bring structured oversight and management to the long-term recovery and rebuilding process ahead. It'll be a place for you to come together as a community to make your voices heard. And we're going to bring our meetings directly to you so it's more convenient and you don't have to come all the way to City Hall. If you haven't already, please, please, please go to the Disaster Recovery Center over in Westwood. While you're there, make sure you visit the county assessor to talk about your lot and your property and its reassessment. Make sure you talk to FEMA and learn how to register for benefits and know what those benefits are. Make sure you go and visit the Department of Insurance. They'll explain your policy, your rights, and how to engage with your adjusters and your insurance company. I know a lot of you are worried about rebuilding and density in the Palisades and what it'll be like when it's done. So I want you to know that I've heard you all loud and clear, and so I want to be clear. I intend to help you rebuild your community back to what it was. I don't want it to be a place that we no longer recognize. But that means we have to stick together as a community, and you need a clear pathway to rebuild what you had. We're working across all of government to speed that up for you, and we're already talking about all of the ways that we want to reactivate your community and bring our city services right to you. I do want to caution people, there are a lot of predatory practices happening. You may get unsolicited offers to buy your lot or your property. You may get calls or texts from businesses you've never heard of. Bad actors are out there circling like vultures, trying to exploit people during uncertain times. So take advice from people you know and you trust. And if you need help, always feel like you can ask us. We're barely at the beginning of this process. You need to get educated. You need to know your rights and your benefits. Don't make hasty decisions right now. But to echo one more thing that Mayor Bass said, all of your elected officials are here with you tonight. We are working in lockstep across every layer of government to create a pathway to get you home. I highly recommend you sign up for my weekly newsletters at cd11.lacity.org and follow me on social media at Councilwoman Tracy Park. I do daily updates there, and it's a great way to stay engaged. And I just want you to know, as your councilwoman, I am on your side. I am here to be your advocate, and I'm going to be right here with you every step of the way. Sue, Miriam, all of our board members, and to all of my friends and neighbors in the Palisades, I am so sorry.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thanks so much for what you're doing every day, all day. It means a lot to all of us. Okay, next we have District Attorney Nathan Hockman, if he is here. There he is.
All right, thank you very much, Sue, for the opportunity to address this group. You know, this crisis has brought out the best and the worst humanity. On the best side, I've seen firefighters literally put their lives on the line to save people's lives and to save property and homes, and do it day in and day out without any thought about getting some sleep. I've seen law enforcement go into fire zones to keep people safe, keep their property safe. I've met the officers who went into the Eden fires and rescued 200 people in a convalescent home that the fires were about to destroy. They literally had to pick them up and carry them to safety. I've watched over 200,000 people evacuate and do it in a cooperative way. I've been one of them. It is the sense of trust that people had when they were told that they had to cooperate, to leave their houses and do it in a way that didn't cause utter panic, and then trust that law enforcement and firefighters would do their best to keep their property safe. Again, that level of trust is unprecedented. And I've been in the Palisades zone because my sister lived on Swarthmore. I got in Wednesday, right after the January 7th. I was there on January 8th. Her house was burned to the ground. And as we looked from her house, what used to be hundreds of houses in that neighborhood are no more. It was truly an apocalyptic scene as the winds were blowing, the fires were still going on. It's a disaster. I thought I saw disasters back in the 90s when we got hit with fires, floods, and earthquake and riots. And this pales in, that pales in comparison to what I was seeing. But what I've also seen is the incredible spirit that people have had. I've seen people come together from all parts of not just the Palisades and the West Los Angeles, but all over Los Angeles County, all over the state, all over the nation, where people have basically pitched in to people who are otherwise strangers to them and say, what can I do to help? That is the positive part of the human spirit that has been in abundance. And I will tell you, and I have been at these press conferences, I've been in contact with our elected officials, that government actually hasn't worked better, in my view, since January 7th. There used to be territorial lines between the federal, the state, the county, the cities, and those lines have basically disappeared. They've been put to the side as everybody has adopted a can-do philosophy, which is how can we help people first stop these fires from endangering their lives and homes, and then begin this recovery process. That part has been an incredible, good, positive side of this crisis, but there is a bad part. And the bad part, unfortunately, is where I come in. And it's working with law enforcement to deal with the criminal element that views this crisis as an opportunity to profit, to actually hit people at their lowest moments and victimize them all over again. And so what we've seen in the range of crimes are crimes that you see in these type of crises. They range from looting, different types of arson, price gouging, insurance scams, charity scams, government benefit scams, and all contracting scams that we're seeing now. Unfortunately, this crisis brings out the worst in certain human beings. But I must tell you that we have sent an unmistakably clear message in connection with this crisis. That the issue is not if, but when these people get arrested, then they will be prosecuted, then they will be punished to the maximum extent of the law. And I'll give you some examples. The people we have now caught and now charged dozens of people for looting. They are looking at a minimum maximum sentence of 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, 12 years, and for people with extensive criminal histories, 22 years and life in prison. The minimum sentence that someone's going to be looking at most likely in an arson situation is going to be close to 5 to 9 years of state prison. With price gougers, we've been reviewing now dozens of cases. And I want to make it quite clear what price gouging is in a crisis. If you had a price that existed before the wildfires, let's say you were renting your home or ADU for $5,000, you're allowed to increase it 10% once that state of emergency has been put into effect. So you can now rent it out for $5,500. If you rent it out above that 10%, you are engaged in price gouging. There are criminal penalties, there are civil penalties, and ultimately it's going to be public shaming. And people say to me, well, what if I put my house out there for $5,000 and someone gives me $6,000, $10,000, $20,000? Can I take it? The answer is no. The law is crystal clear that if you receive more than 10% more than it was on the market for before the fires, that you are guilty of price gouging. So let there be no confusion of what price gouging is, because we're going to come after the price gougers, because they are trying to profit illegally at the expense of people in their lowest moments. And we've seen, for instance, with the charity donation scams, that people very much want to be generous and donate to the people who are the victims. And what has happened is that people have set up fake GoFundMe pages, pretending to be victims, counting on the fact that people just so want to donate and help the victims that they won't check out where the money's going to. So as much as I encourage people to donate, whether it's money, goods, services, please make sure that the entity you're donating it to is a legitimate enterprise. If you give it to the American Red Cross, if you give to the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation, these are legitimate organizations that will get the money to the victims. But please don't be fooled by any fake sites, Now, interestingly, GoFundMe actually goes ahead and monitors its sites and checks them out and verifies sites that are legitimate GoFundMe. You can certainly go to GoFundMe to find legitimate sites, but be very careful when you're dealing with giving out your money to wildfire victims. Same thing with insurance scams. What we're seeing now is that people are contacting people to say, I'm an agent. I can get you more insurance, faster insurance. I have connections with the government that if you give me this amount of money up front, I'll make sure that you get a recovery that no one else is promising you. Well, if it's too good to be true, almost assuredly, it is completely untrue and fake and a scam. So be especially clear if someone contacts you. You can cross-reference them with the Department of Insurance if they're claiming to be representative of any type of insurance agent or broker or company, and you absolutely should. Same thing with contractors. As we start to rebuild, there will be plenty of unlicensed contractors coming into Los Angeles County trying to promise you that they can do it cheaper, faster than anybody else out there. If they're unlicensed, and you can check with the contracting state license board by just putting their name or their company's name in and seeing if they have a license. Because if they're unlicensed, not only is that a felony on their part, and please report them, but they're too good to be true will be a complete scam. And they can't do it better, faster, or put you farther, higher up in line than a normal contractor can. So be very, very wary about that. And government benefit scams. And let me just put it out there because you're going to see it coming. We're about to receive billions of dollars of state and federal aid. And the people who should receive that money, the individuals and the businesses that have been destroyed and desperately need that money to recover, please, we'll make sure it gets to you. But there will be people who try to rip off that money. And let me make this crystal clear. We will go after you. We'll throw the whole book at you. If you want to take advantage of people in their lowest moments, you're despicable, and you will be treated exactly like that. So the district attorney's office will be working with law enforcement and all of you and the public to ferret out these criminals, to make sure they understand that they do these actions in this crisis. It's only a question of when, but and not if. And I'm hoping that these messages quite candidly deter the would-be criminals from coming into this crisis. But if they don't, the consequences I describe are real, and justice will be swift and it will be significant. And again, to the extent that you have any questions about any part of this process, please reach out to the LA City Attorney's Office, the LA District Attorney's Office, the Office of the Attorney General. The recovery.lacounty.gov website has a number of resources that you can touch into. Because our job is to allow this recovery to go forward so that you can get back. And as Tracy Park has said, basically rebuild the Palisades and rebuild it. Tracy, the only thing I would say is that it's not only going to go back the way it was, it will be better. It will be the best version that it's ever been, because it's based on the people who aren't going to change. And people are on this particular Zoom. I know so many of you. I've been going to the Palisades for almost 60 years now. It is, in my mind, one of the preeminent communities, not just in LA and not just in California, but the entire world. And it will be back. And I'm going to do my best to protect you from the criminals who are going to be, unfortunately, coming at you. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. And again, everyone stay safe, and we will begin this rebuilding process.
Thank you so much, District Attorney. I really appreciate it. Next we have Jim McDonald, who is our Chief of LAPD, if he's on.
I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity as well to be able to be part of this call tonight. And again, I echo the mayor and council member Park, their sentiments as to just how sorry we are for what you're all going through. The commitment that Mayor Bass talked about, that we're with you for the long haul. I echo that on behalf of the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department. Councilmember Park talked about the Disaster Recovery Center, the resources that are out there. This has been bumpy without a question. We're trying to do the best we can to be able to corral resources together to be helpful, to be able to communicate in a way that is not as frustrating as you've seen in some cases, to be able to speak with one voice as best we can. But that certainly has been a challenge, and I would you know, based on so many other experiences, not to this degree, but similar types of things. It's always chaotic in the beginning. It gets better as time goes on. The scale of this disaster has been such that it's gone on longer than we would have hoped for, but we have an awful lot of good people working very hard around the clock to be able to make this as smooth as it can, to be able to protect your property that remains there. Our job as a police organization is evacuation. And I look at the job that was done there, and so many people were evacuated in such a short period of time. Thanks to all of you and your cooperation and your commitment to keeping our community members safe. We got a lot of people out of there so quickly that otherwise I think we would have had a fatality toll very much higher than it was. So I'm grateful and thankful for the partnership that we saw from members of the community. Traffic control, ingress and egress, trying to be able to allow for emergency vehicles to be able to get in and out in the beginning. And then as time went on and the fire was brought under control, to be able to get the workers, the contractors, the people from DWP, from the gas company, in to be able to secure it and make the environment as safe as it can be. And then crime suppression. We have our people in there. We're working very closely with the CHP and the National Guard for perimeter control to try and limit access to those who should be there, and to be able to hold those accountable who are trying to get in that shouldn't be. You've seen some examples of that with arrests that have been made. DA Hochman has been a great partner in communicating the message that we are taking this very, very seriously. Part of the issue, I think, is that a lot of people look at this and you look at it through the lens, certainly that you bring to the table. And what I didn't even have an appreciation for, having been in a lot of these different type of emergencies, is just the number of entities that are responsible for basically signing off on an area to be able to open it up for repopulation. CalFire, as you know, is the lead on this. They have been unbelievable. I have such a respect for CalFire and what they've been able to do. And they go from one disaster to another throughout the state and other states as well. But the things that go on that mostly under the radar, the soil and air sampling to ensure that that it's not toxic for you to repopulate, building and safety to make sure that the structures are sound, and that won't be a problem. Gas shutoffs, DWP dealing with down power lines, which are highly problematic. And the battery issue, relatively new to all of us, is the e-cars. And well, along with that comes the lithium ion battery, which are subject to exploding under the right conditions. And so many garages with power walls that electrify those vehicles in the recharge mode. And, you know, as we go forward, the EPA has been a great partner in that. So there's so many different organizations involved in trying to be able to ensure that the Palisades is as safe as it can be for repopulation. We all share that sense of urgency that we want to get you back as soon as reasonably possible, but to do it in the safest way that we can. And then certainly throughout this, the recovery of remains. We have cadaver dogs working the area, and we want to be able to, as best we can, to be as effective, efficient, but also as respectful as we can to recover the remains of anybody who was killed in the disaster. One thing that DA Hochman, he talked about the scams of all kinds, people exploiting other people at their most vulnerable time. I had a meeting earlier today with a group of sex trafficking, labor trafficking advocates, and that was instructional for me, because what they mentioned in this was that some of the most vulnerable people are those in the aftermath of disasters, people who had worked for, potentially people in the neighborhood, are now without any kind of ability to sustain themselves. Others will prey on them. They'll come in from other places to be able to take advantage of that population. And so I just, as he mentioned in another topic, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you could share that with those that you had the opportunity to work with before, or they worked for you, that certainly would be appreciated and hopefully harden the target. And then whatever support certainly you can provide for those that are most needy at this time, I would ask you to keep that in mind as well. So my bottom line is that we're here for you as we go forward. We will try and do the very best job we can to make this as smooth as we can for you. It is a dire circumstance without any doubt. And we appreciate the patience and the commitment and the partnership that all of you have shown throughout this ordeal. If later, and I have Commander Steve Embrick on the line as well, and he has served as the incident commander for the Palisades Fire on the police side. And certainly any detailed questions regarding repopulation or other, that Steve would be helpful in being able to address those as well. So a sincere thank you to all of you. And I look forward to working with you and getting to know many of you better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief McConnell.
Sure.
Appreciate it very much. And now we have Kristen Crowley, Chief of LAFD. Kristen, if you're on.
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. I just want to take a moment just to take this all in. I see everybody's faces. We've been actively engaged. And I just need to take this moment to say that on behalf of our 3,779 sworn and civilian LAFD members, that we absolutely stand with the Palisades. Our work will not stop. I've had the opportunity to spend some significant time with our local fire stations, Fire Station 19, 69, and 23. And the firefighters that serve your community and have that huge heart to serve, they have looked me in the eye and said, Chief, we're going to continue to support the community that we love. We've said it time and time again, your community is our community. And I can tell you, every single firefighter, whether they're assigned to the Palisades or spread throughout our 465 square miles within the city, are 100% committed to you and a continued service to getting you back to where you need to go. And that starts with what and how we serve you prior to the fire, during the fire, and in the recovery efforts as well. We also want to just take a big step back, and as we figure out more efficient ways to communicate with each and every one of you, tonight is all about our ability to put the right people on this call from the fire department, from the incident management team, so that we can answer your questions and get you the information that you need. So that is our goal tonight, is to make sure that you get the information that you need from the fire department and the incident management team, as well as the team that we have compiled here tonight. I want to just take the moment to also thank every entity that was part of the response, local, regional, state, federal. There's still over 5,000 individuals that are assigned to the incident, and everybody has the same mindset that we're not going to stop. Our goal is to get you back in your communities, and then, of course, move towards the recovery and the rebuilding. Again, we want to get you those answers, and that's why we're here tonight. I want to just stay very short because I know we've got a lot of questions that we want to answer tonight, and it's an absolute honor to be able to represent our first responders and the LAFD that, I tell you, they're with you, they stand with you, and we're going to continue to fight, continue to serve the Palisades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have Nick Melvoin, our LAUSD Board of Education member. Was Nick able to get in? There he is. Okay, good. You made it.
Yes, thanks, Sue. Thank you all. It's nice to be with this incredible community, not under the circumstances any of us had hoped, but I just want to start off by saying how in awe I am of the resilience of the Palisades. I'm so proud to represent you all, not just as your elected school board member for almost 8 years, but also as a neighbor and friend, a kid of the greater Palisades area just down the road in Brentwood, who spent my childhood and will spend my adulthood in the Palisades. And I'm committed to doing all we can to support you in the short, medium, and long term. I also want you to know that we're experiencing this not just as elected officials, but as neighbors and friends. Of course, my district director, the wonderful Allison Holder-Polhill, lost her home. I know Sue, you, and Chris, and so many folks on here. And so I just want to let you know we're thinking about you. I also want to thank the council for your work. It was nice to be with some of you in person last weekend as we've continued to meet. And I want to thank my partners. I won't get to all of them, but Senator Allen, Assemblywoman Irwin, Mayor Bass, of course, and Tracy Park, who I don't think has slept in 2 weeks. And Tracy, if you're still on, so grateful for your partnership. I just want to address quickly, given the agenda tonight, but what's going on with the schools. I'm grateful that on the 7th, when we first saw smoke at 10:41 a.m., if I recall, we were able to evacuate Marquez, Pali Elementary, and Paul Revere. We were lucky, I will say, that Pali High was not yet in session back from the holidays, and so we didn't have the 2,900 kids plus their faculty to evacuate. I think we were all watching in horror, of course, that night. I was back in the Palisades the next morning to assess the damage to the schools. And I think, as most of you know, Marquez Elementary School pretty much completely destroyed. Pali Elementary School, the almost 100-year-old administration building still stands and might be the basis of the rebuild. And we are committed to rebuilding our schools in the Palisades. We were within a week able to relocate the 2 elementary schools, Pali Elementary and Marquez, those students with their peers, with their teachers, with their principals. Pali Elementary is now co-located at Brentwood Science Magnet on Gretna Green for the near future, and Marquez Elementary is co-located at Norris Sterry in West LA. I want to stress that these aren't long-term solutions, but they were the best way to get the kids back with their peers and their teachers and their school community as soon as we can. And so we're grateful to everyone who helped make that happen. We also were able to reopen in the last few days Paul Revere Middle School, Kenter Canyon, and I was there a few times this week. And with our safety precautions in place, MERV 13 filters, air purifiers, limited outdoor time, campus deep cleans, N95 masks for students and staff. And we're continuing to work with district experts, but also the Coalition for Clean Air and others to monitor air quality and make sure that our kids are safe at school. We're reevaluating a timing to reopen Canyon Elementary School or to look at contingency plans there, knowing that it's relatively close to the burn scar. Topanga Elementary School, I was just on a Zoom with their parents, is still under a red flag warning. So they have been physically relocated to the Valley to Woodland Hills Middle School for the last few weeks. So those kids are in person, but just not at Topanga yet. I know you're going to hear from Dr. McGee at Pali High. We are working hard to find a temporary space for the Pali High students, 2,900 kids. It's not lost on me that our seniors this year were freshmen during COVID, and it is my priority, as it is the schools, to get them back in person as soon as possible. You'll hear from Dr. McGee in a few. We have a few leads for temporary sites, and they have my commitment, as some of you may have seen in the LA Times today, that the district will do all it can in terms of our financial support, but also waiving any regulations and getting the bureaucracy out of the way to get Pali back where they need to be. I also want to thank Mayor Bass. She and her team have been really helpful in helping Pali try to find temporary space. And so thank you, Mayor, for that. We also are committed to rebuilding Pali High. About 65% of the school is still intact. And so as soon as we can, and we already have site teams and environmental assessment teams up there assessing it, we will remove the debris, we will rebuild the parts that were destroyed, and we will get kids back there as soon as humanly possible. And I'm hopeful that might even be in the fall for the start of the fall semester. It is also, as I've told the parents of Pali High, my hope, if humanly possible, to get the graduating seniors to graduate on that field if we can't, even if we can't get kids back until then, to have a graduation on that field. And we'll see if we can do that. The last thing I want to say, Sue, before turning back over is the LA Unified Foundation has raised about $3 million, and we're supporting displaced families and teachers and staff. We also know that Pali High Rise is accepting donations. And so please reach out to our office if we can be helpful as we're connecting resources. I know some of the students on my youth advisory committee at Pali High reached out today with a list of the instruments that their peers lost, and we're trying to get those replaced right away. And finally, I want to say to the parochial or private schools in the Palisades, I've already been in touch with their leadership. LA Unified is here to help if we can, with space, with resources, and that goes to our places of worship that have lost preschool spaces or others. And so I would also love to help all the kids in the Palisades if we can. So grateful for everyone's support. Please reach out to me if I can be helpful. We are doing all we can for the kids and families of the Palisades. We will rebuild both elementary schools. We will rebuild the high school. And while we're rebuilding the Palisades, maybe we can rebuild some of those things that I remember from my youth. I'm going to put a plug in for Mort's Deli and Jacopo's. So that's what I hope. I love to you all. And thanks, Sue, for having me. And we're going to get through this. And I'm so in awe and proud of you all and proud to represent you. So thanks, Sue.
Thank you so much, Nick. And now we have, with more information about the high school, Dr. Pamela McGee, who's the principal of Pali High.
Hi. So I'm so sorry. I just was able to log in just now, so I missed the earlier information. So I'm trying not to be repetitive, but I want everybody to know I just run back from the pier. There's a KTLA event tonight in recognition of the firefighters, but also in recognition of Pali High. Really trying to get folks out to support the school, support fundraising for Pali, to make sure that we're able to come back in an in-person setting as soon as possible and be back on our campus as soon as it's safe to do so.
I think that was the main concern that we heard in questions, was, when can kids get back, and what's being done for kids who aren't able to be there now?
So we've opened the semester in Zoom, back online, and that's not a situation that we're happy about at all. I mean, it's great that we have that as an alternative, and it does work for some families in this moment of trying to, I think, find their footing, and whether trying to find housing and other things. But in the long run, or even in the short-term future, we're looking for a site that we can bring everyone back together. We know in terms of mental health, socio-emotional well-being, students really do want to be together. These are the students who were impacted by COVID, and they've shared with us time and time again just how important it is to have an in-person experience. So with all the people that Nick referenced, they are supporting our school. They are there for us. They're looking for alternatives and options, and we have some that we're looking at very closely. I think that we'll have some good alternatives here in the next couple of days. Maybe we'll even know something more concrete next week. Our board needs to meet and have an opportunity to review what those options are and to make some decisions for our school going forward. But I just would want everyone to know we have mental health support, we have tutoring, we're doing all of those things even in this virtual moment. And then, of course, our plan is to very soon have a satellite location that we're using while we work to get our campus back online.
Oh, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. You might have some questions later on, but moving along now, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, if you're on. There she is.
Thank you so much. First, I just want to extend my condolences to all of you who have lost members of your community, and my deepest sympathy for all that you have lost: your homes, your mementos, your community centers, your places of worship. These are all incredibly special places that helped you build the lives that you have led for a number of years, and we are all committed to helping rebuild what has been lost and helping you protect the memories that will last past this very difficult time. I know a lot has been said, so I would just want to focus on two areas where the county is leading. I'm most interested in hearing your questions. First, the county is the lead agency on debris removal. We are in a unified command effort with our Office of Emergency Management. I know our Director of Public Works is on, Director Mark Pistrella, who is lead on for all of us on our flood control district, which is the agency that is leading both in clearing out, excuse me, all of our infrastructure for storm drains. As we know, rains are predicted for this weekend, and how we protect that infrastructure, but also all of our roadways. And we're the lead agency in coordination with all of our relevant cities, including the city of Los Angeles. There are two phases of the cleanup that I'm sure you've heard about. The first, the EPA is already underway. This first phase is the hazardous waste removal. It is done free of charge, automatically throughout the region. The EPA is working to remove this debris from the region on a daily basis. It will be staged in an area that then is trucked out, so it will not become a stockpile, but it will be removed from the area according to the best practices. The second phase of the debris removal is being led with the Army Corps of Engineers, and this is the greater fire debris removal. There are two ways in which you can participate. You don't have the option not to participate in debris removal. Obviously, we have to remove this debris to restore the community. So there are two options. First, you can opt into the government-provided service through the Army Corps of Engineers. You will have to fill out a form that authorizes us to go onto your property to do this, or you can hire a private contractor to do this debris removal for you. Either way, you still have to follow all of the standards that the EPA and relevant agencies are putting into place, but you do have the choice on how you want to conduct that second phase of debris removal. We are working in a coordinated fashion, thanks to an executive order from the governor directing us as the flood control district to lead in this effort. And if you have any questions on debris removal, you can reach out to our office. We also know that there have been questions about potential mud flow concerns. If you do have concerns over the weekend, please save this 800 number, 800-933-0930. This is a number you can call about all the concerns you might have. Right now, we are staging K-rail and sandbags and other items to make sure that we are putting all preventative measures in place that we are able in advance of the storm. And if you have any questions or concerns about your property and debris flow, that is something that's a number that you can call. The second area where the county is taking a lead role is obviously on public health. And this has been a major concern as we talk about repopulation efforts. If at all possible, I know people are eager to get back to their properties for a variety of reasons. You want to see it, you want to be back in your community, you want to get there ahead of your insurance adjuster, whatever your motivation. I understand that there is a sense of urgency, and we are working to be able to have you come back in as safe of conditions as possible, even for a brief time. However, I would strongly encourage you to wait if you can, especially if you have young children or if you have older adults in your household. The health concerns and the health risks are still being assessed. And so that is why we are providing, through the Department of Public Health, we are providing PPE. So when you stage at the Santa Monica lot 3, when you will be escorted back to your property when you are authorized to do so, Department of Public Health officials will provide you with PPE, things like N95 masks, body suits, gloves, and goggles, things of that nature. And I strongly encourage you to wear them if you do choose to go back at this point in time. We have not done all of the hazardous waste material removal yet. We have not done the fire debris removal yet. It is very imperative that you take these precautions to protect your health. We are very concerned about what is in this debris. And so our Department of Public Health is working with state and federal partners, medical leaders, research facilities on studying all of the aspects of public health impacts, from the air quality that we all know is an ongoing issue, and so on. So these are the two areas that the county is leading on, in addition to a variety of services that you can access from the county at the Disaster Recovery Center. And so we strongly encourage you to avail yourselves of those services. They are for everyone. And the Disaster Recovery Center, as you know, is open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. My team is here for you each and every step of the way. We're here to hold your hand through this difficult time and be the support that you need and that you deserve. Thank you so much for including me in your space tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Questions will come. Next, we have State Assembly Member Jackie Irwin. If Jackie is in.
Sue, I don't see Jackie on the line yet.
Okay. Congressman Brad Sherman was not able to join us tonight, but Scott Abrams, his district director, is here.
Should be on
Thank you
mute.
so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. First, my heart goes out to everyone on this call in the community, everyone impacted by this, and that's a lot of people. Congressman Sherman would have been on this call, but he's on an airplane right now back from Washington, D.C. He felt it was important to be in Washington for the inauguration as he advocates for federal resources, and he'll be back on the ground tomorrow. And we know the president will be on the ground tomorrow as well. The congressman has been focused on providing practical information for residents, so let me follow in that vein. First, for those of you who are looking for your mail, many of you know that mail resources have been relocated to Rancho Park. If you have lost federal documents in the fire, passport, social security card, green card, our office can assist with those things. Please know for passports, if you have travel within the next few weeks, you're going to want to call our office to help you get an appointment to get a passport book printed the same or the next day for your travel needs. FEMA is involved in many different ways. Of course, they're providing resources to local government in terms of the firefighting capacity, especially funding that. We also know that there is individual assistance for those who have lost real property, personal property, need rental assistance, all of the above. So I want to flag one issue, which is that many people who have applied through the disasterassistance.gov website have received notice that they are denied or maybe not eligible. The wording is misleading, and Congressman Sherman has been focused on addressing that with FEMA, and they have changed some of their language to address the reality, which is that people are not necessarily being denied. They're being asked to provide more information about the status of their insurance coverage. So please don't give up. If you receive a letter that looks like you have not been approved, please continue to follow through on that through either the appeals process or call our office. We want to make sure that you don't give up on that process because there are resources available. $43,600 for some real property issues, $43,600 for other needs, which could include personal property, but also could include medication and other variety of needs you might have. $770 for immediate critical needs. So those are FEMA resources. FEMA is also involved in the debris process, and the supervisor just laid out that process well. I'll just note that the EPA is on the ground presently to address some of the hazardous waste that's on site. And just like you've been able to go online and see the status of your properties and figure out if there was damage, EPA will be hosting a website as well to show you the status of their efforts in remediating those hazardous waste materials. So please stay tuned for that. They have a website now. I'd say it out loud, but it's not very intuitive. Or you can just Google EPA 2025 Southern California wildfire response. But they will have a map up there showing the status of their work. In terms of mudslide concerns and other issues regarding possible rains, the LA County Public Works and California Office of Emergency Services are taking the lead on those issues, and FEMA stands by for any needs to assist there. And let me just see. There's so many speakers, so many issues to cover. I think I'll leave it at that for now. Our office has hosted a telephone town hall already with about 14,000 people participating. We will be scheduling another one soon. So please visit sherman.house.gov to find out about our next telephone town hall. And the congressman will be at events this weekend, including an event in the city of Malibu, an event at Santa Monica College, an event at Topanga Community Center. So there are lots of events this weekend, opportunities to see the congressman in person and to get resources. I know it's been said before, but I'm going to say it one more time. Please, please, please visit the Disaster Resource Center. Our office has a table there, and anything that you're curious about that I've talked about today, we can talk about there, but also the agencies are there themselves, SBA, FEMA, and now State Department for passports. So much under one roof. Please visit that site, 10850 West Pico. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Scott, and representing. I think we have one more. We have Chief Brandon Gunn with CalFire. Might want to say a few words.
Sue, I don't see him on either.
Okay, he's not there. Okay, if that's where we are, it's time for the questions. So you can go ahead, Miriam, if you want, and Chris.
Okay, hi everyone. So first, let me admit a few more people in. We had a capacity of 1,000. We went a little bit over, and then I'm just trying to make sure everybody who wants to be here is. Okay. Ben Allen. Sue, would you like Senator Allen to speak?
Yes, if he's here. Yeah.
He is, and he is unmute. Welcome, Ben Allen.
There we go. Nice to see you. Well, thank you, everybody. And I just echo all the comments that have been made by my colleagues. We've been working closely together to try to address all the many, many challenges that exist in the community right now. I want to thank the Community Council for participating in a special roundtable that we did last weekend with the Senate leadership, who came down to learn about all the issues that are happening in the Palisades, so we can make sure that they're taking their concerns up to all the policymakers in Sacramento. I represent the Palisades and Malibu in the California State Senate, and it's certainly our deep commitment to just provide the utmost of transparency to the community as we go through this very difficult recovery process. It's what everybody deserves. I just came from a signing ceremony. We were in Sacramento this morning, voted for the $2.5 billion of state support for cleanup efforts that will be reimbursable from the federal government. That was just signed by the governor just this afternoon in Pasadena. And then we had a briefing with state agencies to talk about the current efforts, which are underway with all these state agencies that are involved in helping to make sure that there's an effective cleanup strategy. Basically, the state is fronting all of these funds to fast track the cleanup effort. And most of the money is going to go to cleanup and removal of waste and debris, but also important items such as temporary shelter, rebuilding efforts for homeowners and schools. We're also providing some funding to the city of Los Angeles to help them come up with a really good, high quality plan for permitting so that everyone can get their homes rebuilt, but we do so in a way that is also safe. We want this to be a quick process. We also don't want to cut things like fire safety, for example, after all that we've been through. And so the city will get some additional money to help get people in place to have an expedited permitting review process. We also got funding to help the Department of State Architect and the folks who work on schools do their work to help to expedite the rebuild of Marquez and Palisades Elementary and then, of course, the high school as well. So all that is underway, and I think Nick spoke a little bit about it. Obviously, we're very concerned about the wet conditions coming in this weekend. There's some money in the bills that are going to help to mitigate, debris flow and mudslides that can result in the burn scar area. We've already pre-positioned from the state lots of supplies and personnel to start assessing and fortifying the area to protect against these hazards. And we were hearing from people from the National Guard and Office of Emergency Services and all the work that they're doing with the Army Corps to make sure that there's a stronger system in place to deal with the rains this weekend. Of course, there's also funding in the bills for testing relating to air quality and water quality, which we know are massive, massive problems, and quite frankly, big concerns of mine. And so it's going to be it's a massive, massive undertaking. I mean, everything, there's so many elements to this, and we certainly encourage people as they're trying to figure out their own path toward recovery, go to go check out the recovery center at the Westside Pavilion. There's so many different government agencies there that can answer people's questions. Property taxes, tenant protections, temporary shelters, fire code within redevelopment, waiver systems, all those kinds of things you can get answered. FEMA's there, of course, as well. Topanga is going to be having a community fair, kind of a smaller one. But if you, for whatever reason, you're on that side of town, it's hard for you to get to the Westside Pavilion. You can go to that on Saturday. I think that's going to be open at the community center in Topanga from, I think, 11 to 4. And there will be, FEMA will be there and others as well. We're having the debris removal workshop that will be on Sunday. I think that Lindsay mentioned that's going to be from 3 to 5. We have the leadership of Cal Office of Emergency Services and EPA and the Army Corps. All the folks who are going to be working on the debris removal process there to answer people's questions. If you have specific to the debris removal process, which is another complicated and kind of painstaking issue. That'll be from 3 to 5 on Sunday at Santa Monica College, and we encourage people to attend that as well. So there's also insurance workshops. We had a really successful, hundreds of people came to SMC last weekend to have face-to-face meetings with the Fair Plan and their insurers. Just last weekend, there's going to be another one at Pasadena City College the following weekend, this coming weekend. If you need, if there continues to be a high demand in that area, maybe we can have another one back on the west side again. Because I know everyone I talked to, came out of there, happy that they were able to get some face time with Fair Plan, with the private insurers, get their questions answered, et cetera. So many kind of unique challenges from lithium batteries we're dealing with. As was mentioned, US EPA and the Army Corps are leading the process, along with state agencies like CalRecycle and the Department of Toxic Substance Control that are in there doing the work. It's going to be a long and arduous process, but these sites are toxic. I know a lot of you are getting the opportunity to go back to your homes, and that's a really important thing. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for you to wear personal protective equipment. The toxicity is serious, and as was mentioned, I think by a previous speaker, if you're someone who may be more medically vulnerable, I encourage you to consider not going back to your burned site right now just because of the toxins. But you can go back, you can definitely mitigate. And if you wear a decent equipment, it can dramatically reduce the chances of you getting sick from your exposure to the toxicity that may be in your burned out property. Anyway, incredibly difficult process. We know that you're all going through. Our office stands ready to help you. We'll post all the contact information in the chat. This is a community that's near and dear to my heart. I live in Santa Monica. I saw the fire right from my window. We're members of Kehilat Israel, and so many of our congregants have lost their homes. And I know so many of my friends have lost their homes. So just like every other person who's spoken, we are with you. We want to do everything we can to help you. We want to do everything we can to make sure that this process is as expedited and as efficient as possible. And I'm going to personally continue to work really hard to do anything I can to get resources from the state, resources from the federal government to assist with this effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I think-
Sue, CalFire is on the call. Would you like me to unmute them?
Yes, please.
Okay, CalFire, go ahead and unmute. Thank you. CalFire, you're unmuted. Go ahead. We're happy to have you.
But I think they're muted.
No, they're up. They're unmute and they are now spotlighted. There you go. Hello. But
He's muted.
he's not muted. It's his own audio that's not coming through. Tracy, can you have Jacob give him a call? Thank you. It's his own audio. Let's see if I can text him.
Maybe we could have a question while we're waiting.
We can, but I do see that Jackie Irwin is on the call. Okay. I can ask a question.
Maybe Jackie first then, because she wasn't here the last time.
Nancy. Jackie has not been released from her climate meeting, so can Joel Price speak in her stead? That's her communication advisor.
Okay.
Sue Cole, would you like Joel Price to speak?
Yes, and then let's try and get as quickly as possible to the questions.
Okay, so Joel, you are able to unmute.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. And we apologize, of course, that the assembly member is not able to be here tonight. She is held up in another meeting, but I know she would want me to begin by acknowledging all of you who have suffered the loss of your homes and businesses as a result of this fire. And I know that I've had personal conversations with her where she expressed that her heart goes out to all of you as you're all working to put your lives back together. And if I could just take a minute to highlight what her office has been doing ever since, even before these horrific fires began. And it was nearly 1 year ago that LA County Fire Chief Maroney made her aware of the planned closure of a number of fire camps in the Santa Monica Mountains. And alarmingly, those crews were going to be dispersed to other areas of the state. And her staff up in Sacramento, along with her, had been working behind the scenes since learning that information to make sure that that did not happen. And it was shortly before the fire began that we received word that those planned eliminations would not be occurring. And that decision is certainly important now. And it was then too. We used all those resources to assist in the effort to extinguish the fires. So in terms of what she's been doing now, mortgage relief, I'm sure, and I apologize, I was not able to get on the meeting earlier either, but so if I'm repeating some things that others have said, I do apologize, but as of today, there are over 270 state chartered banks, credit unions, and mortgage lenders and services that have committed to providing mortgage relief to property owners in the designated fire areas. And she would encourage everyone to contact their mortgage servicer to learn more about that and obtain that relief. She and her colleague, Assemblyman Harabedian, who represents most of the area consumed by the Eaton fire, have authored a couple of bills, one of which is AB 238, that is seeking additional longer-term financial relief as well. In terms of ongoing activities, again, I mentioned there were two bills. Assembly Bill 239 that would establish a state-led disaster housing task force that is actually modeled after FEMA guidelines, and that would operate throughout the long-term recovery period and assist with coordination between federal government, state agencies and departments, and the local municipalities to help speed recovery and rebuilding efforts. And just yesterday, she and Assemblymember Harabedian appeared before the Assembly Budget Committee, where they were able to obtain a amendment to the state budget that will allocate $4 million to help expedite cleanup and assist local government's effort to streamline that rebuilding process as well. And I understand that today the Assembly, the entire Assembly voted to move that forward as well. So that money should be coming soon. Her staff, I guess that would include me, continues to provide guidance and support at the local disaster assistance center in West LA, where victims can obtain immediate FEMA assistance as well as any other type of assistance that may be needed. And we would encourage you to stop by there and speak with the representatives from the various federal, state, and local agencies represented. Those of you who have, I hope that you left there with information that was helpful to you, because everybody is there to help all of you. And I we certainly know that the prospect of rain this weekend has heightened concerns about mudslides and debris flows and potential additional damage as a result of the hills and mountainsides that have been left denuded and barren by these fires. But the state, as well as the city and the county, working around the clock to remove and clean up as much debris as possible. I know that the governor signed an executive order today, bringing up supplies, personnel to come and help with that remediation. So moving forward, she would encourage anybody with questions regarding the available service to reach out to any of the government offices that are represented here on this call. Everybody is certainly here to help in whatever manner they can. Even if it's not within their purview, they will certainly help you get to the help that you need. And if you feel more comfortable, you are more than welcome to contact her district office. And I can give you that number, and will very quickly. It is available on her website as well, the Assembly website, but that number is 805-370-0542, and we will do whatever we can to assist you with, again, whatever services that you need. So thank you for the opportunity. Again, I apologize that she wasn't able to be here.
Okay, thank you very much. And please tell her thank you for her efforts.
I certainly will pass that along.
Okay, I believe CalFire is up. Sue, totally up to you. Would you like them to address, or should I start with a few questions?
Let's go with CalFire if they're ready, and then we'll do the questions.
Okay, CalFire, you're ready. And also Brandon Gunn, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening again. My name is Philip Flegel. I'm the Deputy Chief in charge of Operations West Bureau. I'm serving as the agency administrator for Los Angeles City Fire Department. I'm also going to want to reiterate that this is a unified command that we have here with Los Angeles City Fire Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Los Angeles LAPD, Los Angeles County Sheriff, and CalFire. We are a unified command, meaning that every decision that we make here in this incident is made through all of us as a unified voice for everyone that's involved in the incident, through our objectives that we design and also through the tasks and all the operations that we do here. So I just want to make sure that CalFire is not running this incident. We all running it together as a team, and that's the way it's been since day one. Additionally, I apologize, first of all, for the comm issues that we have here. But more importantly, I just want to, again, put that message out that our hearts and souls and our prayers are all out to everyone in the Palisades involved in this incident. At one time, we had over 5,100 men and women, first responders here on the ground fighting the fire here in the Palisades, both in Los Angeles County and Los Angeles City. Also, law enforcement partners working with us. Then we went after the firefight for 8 days. We went into a trying to do a repopulation plan, which we are putting together now. And now we're looking at some weather things that we're putting together as well with assistance from other agencies. So there's been nothing but working 24-hour shifts for the last 17 days to make things happen. So I just want to assure everyone on this call that we are doing everything within our power to make everything happen as quickly as possible to make sure that A, the fire is out, B, people are safe, that we're able to get people back to their residents to do what they need to do with them and to move on to the recovery process. I will be available for any questions that you have towards the rest of this call, but just want to introduce myself and the people that we also have in the room here is the other 20 experts and other people as part of the Unified Command and other agencies that are assisting us with everything. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us. Taking the time, appreciate it. Okay, now, Miriam.
Yes, so Chris Spitz is on the call and she's got some questions.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris. I just want to start by saying we received probably 50 or so questions, like 14 pages. Here they are. All of these were forwarded to all of the most of the individuals who spoke just now. Some of them were able to answer some of these questions. Some were not answered. A lot of them are highly specific. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to go over all of these tonight, but you may want to enter in the chat your specific question if you feel it wasn't answered. However, one thing I'll note is that there were quite a few questions about debris removal. So I think it was made clear that there are going to be, there's at least one or possibly more town halls that are going to be taking place about debris removal, including the one on Sunday. We're going to put out a MailChimp, which will have a flyer that has a code that allows you to get into the Zoom. So if you can't make it in person, you can see it by Zoom. I do want to just read a text that I got. And by the way, there are only a few questions in the chat as compared to the many, many that we received in writing via email. And we're happy to read those. Miriam and I can read those. But I do want to just start with an overview type, a series of questions that I think encompasses a lot of the other questions. This is a text that I received. This person says, we need to hear, when can we go back? When will the utilities be fixed? When are the lots going to be cleared? What are we going to do to get the schools rebuilt? And when can the businesses start rebuilding? That is fundamentally what a lot of people want to know. And I'm not sure if anyone on this call can answer those, but we would appreciate answers to those. Thank you so much.
Tracy, I see you nodding your head. I think you're going to jump in and take this, but I just want to say in the chat also, and I think, Tracy, it's going to be Councilwoman Park and Supervisor Horvath that are going to be able to answer these, but it's basically, aside from the homes that went down, it's for the homes that are standing. Will soil have to be removed that might be toxic? Will plants like fruits and vegetable trees have to be removed because of toxins? So can you address access and toxins at the same time? Oh, don't mute yourself again. Okay. Okay, go ahead, unmute.
Okay, there was a lot to unpack, Miriam, between your question and Chris's question. I share the frustration. Those are the same specific questions that we're getting as a council office, and that certainty for folks is really important, but it is very difficult to come by. We are still really very much an emergency response mode at this time. As I said in my opening remarks, there are currently hundreds of workers on the ground, even just making the roadways safe enough to start the process of getting utility vehicles up and then residents back in. I'm going to defer to Unified Command on timelines for repopulation. I have personally been pushing for more access as soon as possible. A lot of the information about the utilities, when those are going to be restored, those decisions are made as part of Unified Command. So I will defer to them to try to respond as best they can to that information. With respect to the rebuilding process and when can we get started? I want to manage some expectations here, and I can't give exact timelines, but you all have at least seen the images and the videos. The footprint of this devastation is massive. You are all aware that it is currently a toxic mess, compounded by wet weather conditions as we head into rainy season. There is a lot of work to be done. All of the infrastructure is damaged and broken. The above ground wires, the underground pipes, gas and water lines, all of that needs to be repaired. The infrastructure build out and the debris removal by itself, those things are going to take time. However, we are focusing on investments in our parks, libraries, school, the rec center. We want to restore our anchor community institutions as soon as possible. For buildings that are going to be able to be repopulated, we want a smooth and easy timeline to do that. We are looking at ways for temporary infrastructure for folks who want and need to be on site during the process. We are trying to speed things up. For example, currently to replace what you had, if you build like for like plus 10%, that's basically going to be a rubber stamp process for folks. And so we are also working to bring all of the resources that you're going to need under one roof and activate space within the Palisades community to make it easy for people. We are looking ahead at the 4th of July parade and already thinking about ways to keep our community together. And so I can't give a timeline on when there are going to be nails and hammers on the ground. I am hopeful that it is a heroically short timeline and we are going to see monumental progress. I can tell you with the funding and the resources that are coming in, you have every layer of assistance working to get this done. And I am going to continue to be on the ground to make sure that it continues. So that's what I want to say about it. I know it's very high level. It is not the practical information that you want. We are getting to that. And as we have specific details that help you get the certainty and the stability that you need to make important life decisions, we will continue to push that out. But just be a little patient with us as we try to manage our way through this massive undertaking right now. So that's what I'll say. And I would defer the rest to our county supervisor and to CalFire that makes a lot of these decisions on the ground.
Okay, County Supervisor, your staff is telling me that Mark Pastrella can answer questions about toxins. Is that correct?
Yes, sorry. I can't unmute myself.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, Mark Pastrella, who is our Director of Public Works, he is the lead agent organizing our state and federal partners on the cleanup. And so I'll allow him to introduce our partners as needed and give as much detailed information as we can at this point in time.
He's on mute. Go ahead.
Thank you. Checking that you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, let me start by saying that I am, so terribly sorry for the loss that everyone's had here. As a 38-year career public servant in Los Angeles County, I've been through a lot of these events. The county has suffered tons of fire events like this, and we're sort of hardened by it. But I also personally have experienced this in my own life, so I do have experience about what it is to grieve a loss of a home, both as a child and as an adult. So I'm with you all. We are your county flood control district. As the chief engineer of the Los Angeles County Flood Control District, we serve your community as well as the rest of the county of Los Angeles with flood control and water conservation services for more than 100 years. I know that may be some news to many of the residents that are on the line that we actually provide that service. You see us at the beach there at the outlets, you probably see rustic canyon channel and a lot of underground channels that convey and drain the area and keep it free from flood hazard, and has been retrofitted to divert pollution from the area to sewer, and also maintains the safety of PCH in the area. The district, as I said, covers all of LA County for the most part, other than Catalina Island. You do pay in your taxes for this service. And as I said, we both protect you for flood control, but we also conserve a vast amount of the local water for water supply. It's my privilege working for the Board of Supervisors. All 5 board members have been a total support of our agency becoming more involved and taking the lead in several of the recovery efforts in the city of Los Angeles in the Palisades area. I want to thank Supervisor Lizzie Horvath, who has been championing many of the efforts you see to create a regional response and to bring our resources to bear on the issue. In fact, the governor's executive order that directed and authorized our agency to act as a lead in the debris removal, as well as today, the event that you're seeing now, the rain readiness. So with all that said, I also have a partner agency here with me. Colonel Eric Swenson is on the line as well, and he is going to be our partner in debris removal. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do. And let me start also by saying that what you'll find in me is that I start out by building trust, working at the speed of trust. And one of the things I know I'm getting the opportunity to do right here is build some trust. So what we want to do with trust, to build trust, is to tell you what we know, when we know it, with as timely information as you can get, because I know personally that it's certainty that you're looking for to bring down the pain that's occurring. And uncertainty in our lives is what causes so many people, the pain. What we can do about that pain is work together. work in unison. And as was said earlier, I'm very proud to tell you that the jurisdictions from City of LA to County Los Angeles, the state of California, the federal government are all working together to bring about hope, to bring hope and to bring certainty to you as you rebuild the Palisades. So let me start with first off, what's going on with the rain. The rain that is coming is incoming storm is starting with lots of certainty Saturday, January 25th through Monday, January 27th. We expect the widespread rain likely Saturday night and Sunday. Light to moderate rain and mountain snow with risk of thunderstorms is possible. The thunderstorm potential includes isolated lightning, small hail, and brief heavy rain. Precipitation, we expect anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 inches, increasing Sunday, especially for east-west orientated terrain areas. You are not in the east-west terrain oriented areas. You're facing south, and the south-facing mountains, we are not expecting to get as much rain as we are, say, the San Gabriel Mountains. Several inches of snow in the mountains, mountain road impacts, including the I-5 Talon Pass. We as a part of our operations at Los Angeles County Flood Control District, we year-round prepare for storms like this. In fact, we prepare all year long, and we are what we are mostly doing behind the scenes that you may not see is we are clearing the larger pieces of infrastructure like the 14 major dams and reservoirs, channels like yours, and debris bases in your community that act to capture the debris that comes off the slopes that are adjacent to your property or contributing to your properties. That debris and rain from the natural slopes goes into the debris basins. We take the debris off and we try to flow clear water through the channels down and ultimately either capture for reuse or put into the ocean. Specifically in the Palisades, which is a very steep terrain area and which many of you are worried about, we have been already working hard throughout the year to make sure that we can capture what we call our design storm. And this is good news because the design storm that we designed for includes the debris that's generated when the slopes burn. So our design storm actually accommodates all of these areas that have been burned right now. And what that means is the channels are made bigger than they need to be. They're made big enough to carry not only the natural flows, the drainage that's clear when it's not burned, but also when the slopes have burned. So we have high level of confidence that the debris that comes off the slopes and tries to enter into the streets will be captured for the most part during this storm event. We also have something else going for us. We don't expect intense rain in your neighborhood and in the Santa Monica or the Malibu this rain event. We expect maybe up to an inch or less, which typically doesn't raise huge flags for us. It's the type of rain that we'd like to see happen on slopes that are not denuded. They're doing they're going to do a good job, and that drainage is going to be fine. What we are concerned about for this event, and why I've set the objective of not only protecting people, property, and the environment, is that now we have this debris that was created across the area by the damage to your homes and all of the other debris that was caused by the fire. And this debris is sitting on site on your properties within street right of way, and it is free and loose to be to make its way into the streets and then make its way, hopefully not in, well, what we want to do is make it into the big channels like Rustic Canyon and other channels. What we're currently doing in coordination with the City of Los Angeles and Cal OES and Department of Water Resources, and to some extent CalFire, is we have developed a plan last week for this very weekend's event in which we will be placing devices throughout your community that will, with the purpose of capturing the sediment in the street system. So the streets, we do expect debris flow to go into the streets. What you'll see on the news, yes.
I know they want to get more questions. This is Lindsay. So can you tell them, do they need to take their plants out from toxic exposure to debris?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Sure,
that,
Supervisor.
And what needs to be done before they can come back? I know you don't have an exact, you can get back in 2 weeks, but what needs to get done so that way they can, they have an understanding of what process is happening. And if you have some ballpark estimate of it's going to take months, it's going to take weeks.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So there's the term get coming back. There's the repopulation where we allow people, where CalFire, as was described previously, Unified Command is making decisions about whether it's safe for the community to enter into the community. That my answer is going to be more about when it will be time for you to begin rebuilding on your properties, the timing for that. So as everybody recognized, I think we have to get the streets in place, we have to get the power in place, and gas and other utilities in place as a part of this. And one significant step is debris removal. So debris removal is this phase 2, as Supervisor already clearly described, everyone, taking up toxics and then getting into the community with our partners from Army Corps of Engineers on an opt-in program to clear all of the lots, commercial and residential, of all of the debris that's on your sites, so that we basically take it down 6 inches down and leave you with a buildable pad. And that's while you are pursuing your building permits, we will be working to get that pad ready for reconstruction. What we know from experience, and Colonel's on the line too, he can answer this. We know that the first phase will take some time. Phase 1 will take up to 3 months, maybe even longer, 6 months to get the toxics off. At the same time that is occurring, we'll be coming behind you with the process of debris removal. The debris removal can take up to 18 months, Supervisor. And I'm going to stop there because I want to make sure everybody hears that clearly. I know we want to set expectations, and I said at the beginning, I'm going to tell you what I know when I know it.
Okay, so,
Right now,
sorry, if I can just interrupt you right there. If debris removal takes 18 months, there's a question in the chat. I know it's going to get layered, but just in the interest of bringing another issue in, there's a question in the chat that says, for people whose structures are standing, we worry about insurance companies forcing us to come back in before it's safe in terms of toxicity levels.
Yes.
Right. So are there parameters in place to protect those people whose houses remain, but they can't be in town because maybe there's toxic removal? Any ideas?
Yes. Yes, in fact, we have visited all of your homes and been looking at the community for more than 2 weeks now for this specific purpose, to protect them from potential debris flows. That we are isolating ones that we believe are highly vulnerable, and we're taking evasive action to divert or remove that potential hazard to your pad and to the homes, especially those that are remaining in place.
Okay.
This is Chris Spitz. Can I also add, in the chat, there are a couple of questions that are somewhat related to this. People are asking, when will we receive environmental reports for all areas from the EPA, Department of Public Health, and others? What assurances do we have that ongoing testing occurs for the safety of our children, families, and communities?
The EPA is on site right now and beginning testing both air and soil samples. This goes to Supervisor's question about replanting. The soil right now should not be planted in, and if there's something planted in now, I would highly recommend you don't harvest that material and eat it or use it in any other way. The soil has been heavily impacted by a lot of pollutants. The ash includes a lot of different byproducts of construction, and it is not safe to interact with it without PPE on, protective equipment. The EPA, when they do their household hazardous materials removal, they will place a placard on your site on every single lot that they've cleared and certified that the household hazardous waste is removed. The debris removal process will also include testing. And it won't be until that debris removal process is completely done that we could say to you that the soil is free from toxics and materials that may be harmful to your health. So anytime you interact, up until the point that the debris removal is completed by the Army Corps of Engineers, you are taking some risk in interacting with the materials.
So for roughly 18 months, there's risk involved.
Yes.
Okay. Supervisors and Councilwoman, how is site cleanup costs in phase 2 being covered, calculated, or invoiced? Do either of you want to talk about debris cleanup and how it gets calculated, or how people who opt in or people who don't opt in and have to deal with their insurance companies interface?
I can answer the question if you'd like, or Supervisor, if you'd like to. Okay. The opt-in program that you will be hearing about involves us asking you for permission to enter your properties. It's called an ROE, right of entry form that we ask for you to submit. This gives the Army Corps of Engineers the right to enter the property and to clear the site. This is free of charge to anyone who opts in. No cost to the property owner. If a property owner decides to opt out and do their own debris removal, they will then have to pay for that on their own with their own insurance claim. And insurance, I don't know how much insurance will cover. You have to look at your insurance, your particular insurance, and talk to your insurance agent about that portion of your insurance that covers debris removal. We are highly recommending you opt in for reasons for cost, but also because we want to do this work in an orderly manner.
Well, you have to.
Okay, that's
Okay, can I also mention, there are some questions related to Santa Monica Canyon. Several people are concerned about the hazards. And there's a question about, are they doing any debris or toxin checking or removal in Santa Monica Canyon? Can you answer that one?
In the natural condition portion of the Santa Monica Canyon?
Well,
Or in
Santa
the
Monica
built
Canyon is the
portion?
residential. It's
The
Okay,
residential.
in all residential areas where there's been fire and debris or homes destroyed or not, or just fire has made its way in there, we are looking at those areas from debris control as well as sediment management to keep it from getting in our waterways. And we would also be performing the same debris removal program there. It covers the whole burn area. So anyone who is impacted in this burn area can receive, if they opt in, the debris removal program.
okay. Supervisor Horvath, you are unmuted, so please chime in when you'd like. There's another question. Will DWP be required to bury power lines when they rebuild? Councilmember, do you know?
My push is to underground the utilities, and part of the legislative package that I introduced to lay the foundation for the long-term recovery and rebuilding is to look at the long-term financing that would be required to do something like that. But as we are looking at the rebuilding process, centering high-functioning, safe infrastructure is going to be top of mind and a critical piece of our conversations going forward.
Okay, and Councilmember, another question. It has to do with the mudslides. I know your team is working on them, but can we get a timeline for when we will address slope mudslide issues? Will it be before this weekend's rain? Just tell us what you're doing and what we can expect. I'm sure you can't do 100%, but what can we expect?
I can't answer that. I'm going to have to defer to the county or CalFire from Unified Command on that.
LA County Flood Control District is assessing the debris flows and making mitigatory measures as we speak. We don't expect massive debris flows in this event.
Okay, great. Chris, anything queued up? Okay, so when do you guys, does anyone know when gas and clean water will be restored in the Highlands?
It's a question for Water and Power.
Okay.
I think we have some reps from DWP. Do we?
If one of your staff members can text me, I will unmute.
Jonathan Long's here.
Jonathan Long. L-O-N-G.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to join. So the question regarding the safe water, we did receive a post-wildfire restoration order from the state regulator, California Division of Drinking Water, on Friday, January 10th. And so this is an abundance of precaution based on wildfires that were observed elsewhere in California, Colorado, and Hawaii. There is a potential for certain types of contaminants, particularly benzene and volatile organic compounds. So there is a very prescriptive process that we have to assess our system to be perfectly confident that there are none of these contaminants in our system. Since the wildfires began on January 7th, we did have the opportunity to sample from close to 11 locations in the Palisades areas. We have 9 service zones impacted by the do not drink notice. Those results have come back very favorable. We have not detected benzene, no anomalies in the VOCs, so that's encouraging. Also, our infrastructure, which is a factor because one of the pathways for the volatile organic compounds to enter the system is heat melting plastics, PVC, HDPE, polyethylene. We don't have plastic distribution mains. We don't have plastic service lines. So I think those exposure pathways are not high on the list for us. We will continue to work with the California Division of Drinking Water to restore and address these sampling. There will be hundreds of samples collected through online service zones. We'll be reporting that to California Division of Drinking Water, and we would like to work with CD11 and others to report back on how we stand on those results as we go. We're working to try to restore things to lift this do not drink order as soon and as safely as possible. So thanks for your patience.
Thank you, sir. Chris, you're back in. Do you have a question or should I go on?
Why don't you go on while I look at the chat again? Thank you.
Okay, so that was gas and clean water. I don't know if you can answer, but when can we get back into Marquez Knolls? Or let's expand that. Is there a timeline that anyone can advise us of as you clear Pacific Palisades and allow people into various neighborhoods? Is there a path? Is there rhyme or reason? Is there a timeline we can be advised of, or is it just check every day?
Check every day, but I would love for CalFire to chime in and explain how that decision is made and what they think the timeline is, if they have one they could share. I don't know if Chief Legal or
I see you.
Chief Gunn, possibly.
See that. So cross connections media, you are
Cross
already
Connections Media, yeah.
mute, and Chief Gunn, you are now unmute as well.
Can you hear Flegel?
You're up.
Okay. All right. Can I ask that question? So just get a little bit of a timeline here. So basically on January 11th, day 4 of the firefight, we were already considering what we're going to do to repopulate areas of the Palisades. So we began to start our plan. And what we did is began a timeline, a process, and the progress of trying to get people back into their communities. So it is a very long planning process that we have to make sure that to very many people that we have to talk with to get all the buy-off with certain other entities such as Water and Power, Southern California Gas Company, and other agencies such as the California Highway Patrol, LAPD for access, to make sure they all sign off on the plan and make sure there's access to get inside of these communities and that the access way to get inside are safe of those hazards that may exist for people. So as the day goes on, each day we have a planning meeting at 9 o'clock to make sure that we can make sure everything is clear. The DWP has done their job. Southern California Gas Company's done their job, and the other agencies have done their jobs to make sure those areas are safe for access. Once we do that, we make the plan for the next day, and then at 12 o'clock every day, we announce when those people can make access in their communities. It's a very long process to make sure that we have enough boots on the ground for those other agencies to get their jobs done. And we are pushing to do that as expediently as possible to make sure that happens. Since a few days ago, we've opened up 4 different areas, and we continue to work through that process to get all the Palisades open up. And we are working very tirelessly to get this done, hopefully by the end or by the middle of next week, bearing other things that may come into play, such as electrical problems or water problems that we can't fix that may take longer than necessary. I know that's not the most great answer for you, but again, I do please respectfully ask for your patience. We are, again, working hard 24 hours a day to make sure that's going to happen and make this process the best we can. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Chris, do you have a question queued up or shall I ask?
Yeah, there is one question from someone in the Highlands, Lower Highlands. He says, will it be 18 months for the Lower Highlands Zone F as well as far as safety concerns in the environment to move back in?
You'd like me to answer, or you?
Whoever can answer that, please.
Short answer.
I'd like to. Okay, I'd like to just let Colonel Swenson come on if he could be unmuted and let him come on and talk to the group. It's important that you get to meet him because he's going to be the face of your debris removal for the community. There he is.
There he is.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to let you know that my heart goes out to each and every survivor who's struggling right now. I've never had my house burn, but I did spend I did recently redeploy from Maui, where I helped the community of Lahaina recover from devastating wildfires of 2023. So I know exactly what you're going through. I walked shoulder to shoulder with them through the entire debris removal process, and I was called here to help this community do the same thing. I know there's a lot of questions. A lot of you have questions about timelines, about debris, about when you can get back to your home, about whether you should move back to your home if your home did not burn or was not severely impacted, but homes around you were. What I can tell you from my experience in Maui was if your home is on the periphery of the impacted area, take all your guidance from the public health agencies. But in my experience, once the public health agencies deemed that the surrounding areas were okay to move back in, as long as you take basic precautions, you're generally going to be fine. When we do debris removal, we will have our teammates with air monitors on, and we will have perimeter air monitors established, and we will be monitoring any airborne particulates that come from our debris process, which should be nearly zero. We use the wet method, so we hose everything off as we're doing the process to keep any dust down. And your biggest threat for risk of hazards would be from ingestion, generally from ingestion. So we keep the dust down, and as long as you keep yourself when you're in and around the ash area, you keep yourself in the appropriate protective equipment, you will definitely minimize your risk. But again, I would take all of that guidance from the state and local health agencies. The Corps of Engineers is not a health agency. We do collect air monitoring data, and we pass it on to those agencies that have a reporting requirement. As far as timelines go, it was mentioned earlier that this is a 2-phase or so process. The EPA is rapidly moving out on phase 1, and I expect them to be meaningfully complete with that in a couple months. We will follow immediately behind them as they clear properties, and we will do our phase 1, which concludes a site assessment of every private property that was impacted. And then we will wait till we receive enough rights of entry, as the director said earlier. And that right of entry is our legal document that allows us, with your permission, to enter your property for the purposes of private property debris removal. If all things go as planned, we expect to be meaningfully complete with private property debris removal sometime in the next 18 months. Now, someone's always going to be first and someone's always going to be last. But my advice would be, if you're considering signing up for the Army Corps of Engineers Private Property Debris Removal Program, which is a program offered under FEMA, then I would sign up as soon as possible so that we can get you in the system. We can get your house, your property awarded to one of our contractors, and we can get out to get your property cleared as soon as possible. I will also say that the Corps of Engineers is here for the duration. We are going to walk with you hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. We're here to support you. We will have, we will be at many community meetings. I will probably become a familiar face. I apologize for that. I'll become a familiar face in the community, and I will inform you of where we're at and the progress that we're making each week through various means of social media and public meetings. And you will be part of the debris removal process if you choose. Our contractors will contact you in advance to let you know when we're scheduled to get to your property, and they will let you know the day before that they're going to come to your property the next day, so that if you choose to participate and observe the process from a safe distance, you will be able to do so. And I assure you, we will take great care and compassion as we do this debris removal, because we know that although it may look like debris, this was your home, this was your life and your livelihood, and we want to get this place back into your hands, clear of all the public health hazards, so that you can rebuild your life and your livelihood on your property in this beautiful part of the Palisades. So that's a great overview. I know it's a little bit vague. I can't give you an exact timeline for each individual person, but that's kind of the general overview of the program and the general overall timeline.
Mariam, can I just ask a quick follow-up on the debris removal? Sir, if you do opt in, will there be an adequate time or certainly notice where people can go in and get their personal belongings, any that they may find before the debris is cleared by you?
Yeah, so normally by the time, so normally there's a period of time between after the fire, after EPA does their phase 1 and before the Corps of Engineers starts the phase 2 process, where the county will establish and local governments will establish some access kind of rules and advisories for residents who want to return. And so it's during that period where residents can, if they desire, and to go back on, and they, I would advise that you wear the personal protective equipment that the county and the state health agencies and the local health agencies advise. But you'll be able to go on and to sift through your ash. Again, there is risk. We are under a governor's proclamation, and there is risk to returning to your property. If you've never been to a fire damaged property, you will have the opportunity to. There will be nails everywhere. If you had a basement, it may be hidden. There will be burned timbers, which have no structural strength in them, and so there are hazards out there. So if you do choose to go back to your property and sift through the ash, I just advise caution, and I certainly advise that you don't do it before the EPA has completed the phase 1 household hazardous material removal. That's when they're going to go in and look for paint cans, etc. And you really want to make sure you're on the property after that occurs.
Okay, so related questioning is, can opting in be done online? Will FEMA or the Corps of Engineers remove up to 2 feet of topsoil? How do we sign up for the Army Corps of Engineers program? So I think you have to go to that meeting and you have to opt in person, is what I understand. But again, Supervisor or anybody else have quick answers to those questions?
So there's a process. We're working with the county right now to come up with to get the form right and to roll out the program. It will be administered by the county, and when the county administers it and verifies that the person who signed it is the rightful owner of that property, then they'll pass the right of entry form to the Corps of Engineers for us to put it into our queue and to get it assigned to a contractor to start the process.
A quick answer to a lot of these questions can be obtained at 844 fire debris, and that's 844-347-3332.
That's the number that Miriam put in the chat for me as well. So
yes.
If you look in the chat, there's a section that says debris removal questions. That 844 number is the number for you to call. We know that there are a lot of questions, which is why we're doing a town hall specifically on debris removal on Sunday. Some of the other meetings that were mentioned will encompass a lot of other topics. This one is explicitly and specifically about debris removal. So we strongly encourage you to participate in that meeting, and any questions you have between now and then, you can call that 844 number.
I dropped that number in the chat again right now, and I know you have a flyer circulating, so everybody will begin to see that, hopefully. Okay, where does one get the right of entry form? It will not be online, right? It will be in a meeting form. Is that correct?
It'll eventually be online, but it has to have a wet signature to it.
Okay, so at some point, everybody has to be able to print it out, sign it, and send it somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have that process set up shortly.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, to opt in, you guys, at some point, a paper will have to be printed and sent in. Okay.
And there's printing functions available at the Disaster Recovery Center. So if you need to go there to print it out, you can do that.
Okay. Will water be restored before? So is it that water will not be restored until after debris removal? I think you all said it might be.
It's a water and power question.
LADWP is lead on water, so we need to.
Okay. Can we get an answer on that and maybe send it to the community?
Yes.
Okay, John Brown has a question. How can we apply to the debris removal? Obviously, everybody's now realizing there's going to be a community meeting and you can go and become part of that debris removal conversation. So there's a Palisades Bowl question. So the Tahitian Terrace and the Palisades Bowl, everybody, that was a mobile home park that burned down. People would like to know when access might be granted to them. They're recognizing that other parts of the Palisades people have been able to go in and they haven't. So maybe there's an answer there that can be had. And the question is, I'm part of the Palisades Bowl community. We have no clarity on the park owner's intent to continue operating this property as a mobile home park, leaving our communities in future limbo. Can anyone comment on what's going to be done about the owner of that park? And is there a way to preserve those rent-controlled mobile home parks so that hundreds of people who lost their homes can rebuild and return?
Miriam, I'll just jump in real quick. Thank you for those questions. And let me just acknowledge what incredibly special, wonderful communities those are. Their loss is devastating. And from my perspective, we absolutely want those to continue as they were before. I am aware of the dispute with the property owners. My planning director, Craig Bullock, has been actively involved with these issues, and he will be a great resource. We're looking at a couple of different options and getting some more information. There are some special state laws that govern mobile home parks, and so we are working closely with Senator Allen as well. I'm not sure if he's still on, but we've had conversations with him. And I know that Supervisor Horvath has had an opportunity to get to know these folks in these communities too. You know, Tahitian Terrace just had a get together a couple of days ago. It was wonderful to actually get to see folks in person. And so continue to stay organized as a community and feel free to use me and my planning director, Craig Bullock, as a first point of contact as we work through these really specific and unique issues.
I know that my office was contacted about specifically about Tahitian Terrace, concerns about the owner potentially selling. There were concerns of residents who had been advised that they wouldn't have to pay their rent while they've been displaced, but they were concerned that if they didn't pay their rent, that might mean they would lose their spot. And so we are working to get as many of these questions answered directly from property owners, as well as all of the relevant legal authorities that that govern these policies. So we are aware of this issue on our side because, you know, they will follow city policy, but we're here to help and support and make sure that everybody gets the answers that they need.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
We want to have Mr. Vanacore from DWP speak if he's able to.
I've asked him to unmute. Let's see if he.
Okay, I'm available for any question on power. So if you guys have a question for power, I'm up on site at the rec center.
Oh, that's right. We heard the rec center is going to be a location where water and power is. I think the question is just, will water and power be restored before debris removal is complete? Is there a blanket answer for that, or is it nuanced?
So I would tell you it's nuanced at this time. I think what we're doing is going area by area and assessing. As we're allowed to go in, we're looking at what we can do. Right now, we do have power to the rec center, and we're using the circuits that are available. The station itself did survive fairly well. However, the infrastructure that feeds the areas, it's a complex system. So we have overhead and underground. The overhead portion obviously did not survive as well. So we need to feed those areas with new poles and infrastructure.
Okay,
Well,
excellent. Thank
may
you.
I ask Mr. Vanacore, I know there were a number of questions in the written ones that were submitted by email as to undergrounding of utilities going forward. Is that a possibility? Can we expect that? How can we make that happen?
I will tell you that is our intent as we rebuild the Palisades. We would like to go completely underground. We're in the design process as we speak, and that is our intent at this time.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman Park said she was going to be pushed in that direction also, so we thank you. Okay, so there's another question. Our home and neighbors are burned to the ground. Will public health certify certain subcontractors that are private? There are some teams apparently that are in the Palisades soliciting business, and the question is, will the city certify certain architects or contractors that can be streamlined to work in the Palisades?
So generally for rebuild, or are we talking about the toxic debris removal?
I think we're talking about the rebuilding of the Palisades, the like for like. Are there going to be certain architects or builders that are going to be certified by the city, or maybe like prioritized by the city, that are trusted and can go forward quickly?
It's a great question. I don't know that for sure about a particular group or vetted that will have more priority over others. It may be a strategy worth having a conversation about. So I'm open to anything that moves the ball quickly.
Okay. And then another question, we touched on it before, but if there's a quick way to answer this question, when debris removal happens, they come and they assess how much debris has to be removed, I assume based on toxicity. I understand it can be 3 feet or less. So the question is, will they go down 6 inches, or will they do a blanket 2 or 3 feet? Do you know, or will it depend on toxicity?
We will, the private property debris removal program that the Corps executes will take 6 inches of soil within the ash footprint. So outside of the ash footprint, but within the property line, we will not remove that soil. It is only within the ash footprint.
Okay.
And it's only 6 inches.
And it will only be 6 inches.
Yeah, studies have shown that fire hazards after a fire, don't penetrate more than 3 inches. We will take 6 inches of soil to make sure that we get that top layer where there could be some hazards.
Okay. All right. Another Highlands question, folks. It's Santa Ynez Middle Highlands homes have no damage. We have electricity and water. When will gas come on? Do we have to wait until all the debris removal is done? So basically, if homes are standing and neighborhoods are somewhat intact, will they have power and water and gas?
So I can't speak to the gas company in particular. I can tell you that I will work closely with FEMA, the Department of Public Works, and all of the other agencies and services that use the same shared infrastructure, being the roads. And the goal for the Corps of Engineers is that power, water, sewer, gas, debris are all complete in a timely manner so that residents can rebuild their lives and livelihoods on their property. So we try very hard, a part of this unified command, to deconflict our access routes, and we try to share that infrastructure. So if the power company needs to get out on the roads, we share them. If the sewer department needs to get out and do sewer repairs, we work very hard to deconflict so that none of us are working at the expense of another very important service that needs to get complete. So there should be no reason that I can see that, at least from the Corps' perspective, that other agencies couldn't get out there and do repair work along the line. I will say that the fire, as you all know, is extensive. The area that it consumed is enormous, and I'm sure that many agencies out there don't know the full extent of all of the damage to the infrastructure, especially the infrastructure that's buried. So you have to be patient. It may take some time for all the different agencies to get out there, but we are working as quickly as possible, and we're working collaboratively for the people of Palisades and all the survivors for these 2 devastating fires.
I will just add, because I did meet with the gas company today. They are on the ground currently and working. If you're out on PCH, you'll probably see them starting there, working on the connections at the PCH level. So they are on the ground working.
Okay.
Yes,
Can
I was going to add that I've been there too. There have been disruptions to the gas lines throughout the community. So even if you are in an area that is mostly intact, if your connection point goes to an area where the line has been disrupted, their first their first priority right now is making sure that there are no gas leaks, that all of the gas lines are capped, so it's as safe as possible for people to come back and at least have that momentary opportunity to come back to their property. And then they will do the longer term connections and reconnections, depending on where you are, will determine whether you're connected to a broader system that has been disrupted in a more significant way. And I know that there are a lot of questions about what is the timeline for X action, and I can only imagine the frustration that people feel, especially when it feels like your world is swirling around you. You want to be able to ground onto facts and timelines and certainty. And so I hear you. I understand that. I believe all of us who are in positions of authority and decision making really understand that the more certainty we can provide you, the safer and more secure you're going to feel. And it is our goal to get you that information. But at this point in time, there are many unknowns. And so many of the answers to what is the timeline for X operation we have yet to be able to determine it. And we are committed to giving it to you as quickly as we know it.
May I ask a very quick question that someone has asked? It's a good one. Actually, maybe related to timelines. When will PCH reopen? Can you tell us?
We don't have a specific timeline on PCH. I did share a letter with Caltrans. I met with the director, who is my colleague on the Metro board today, expressing to her the sense of urgency that we have with Caltrans on PCH. Obviously, it's not just Caltrans. Caltrans has to work and make sure that it's safe for all of the utilities have completed their operations, that any of the walls that need to be reestablished for security and safe travel, that all of that infrastructure work is being done. We have alerted the governor, and I spoke with him this afternoon directly at the press conference about how his partnership and making sure that there is a focus on moving that forward is critical, because there are businesses that, but for the PCH closure, would be more operational. So we are very sensitive to the need to reopen, and they're having passed through the PCH on an almost daily basis these past couple of weeks. I can tell you, and there are times where it's down to one lane of traffic, where they're stopping and starting in each direction because of the number of utility personnel that are out there. So it is not presently safe for travel and opening to the public at this time.
Okay, so that might be related to the question that Tahitian Terrace people had us to access, since they would access their location through PCH. I guess they're going to be waiting for PCH to open. Would that stand to reason?
Yes, I even had Santa Monica residents who are sort of in that first stretch near parking lot 3 saying, can you at least move the closure from the 10 up to maybe like incline or something, so we don't have to have that, show our ID to get home, and we can at least get through that first part. But you may have seen a day or two ago, there were people, utility workers, who were addressing the light pole sort of at that turn as it becomes the PCH from the 10. And so we just have to have safe access for them to be on the road in some of the roadways while they're doing that repair work.
Okay, I have a quick question. Speaking of all the different utility people that are being given access and going into the Palisades and working, how solid is the ID checking? So while residents are not in the Palisades, utility workers and officials are, how tight is ID checking, so that the people who are walking around the streets are actually those utility workers and not people who are potentially looky-loos on the houses that are standing and obviously unoccupied? That has come up over and over again. I can tell you at least once a day, somebody texts me with something like that. So what is the level of care?
Yeah, anecdotally, I can tell you a Palisades resident called me screaming yesterday because he was in an area that he was allowed to come back in, but he couldn't because the sheriff's department and the National Guard at Coastline was not allowing him to get back to his neighborhood. So I can tell you that while it frustrated him in that moment, they are very strictly enforcing these closures. They are being incredibly strict about who they're letting in. I can tell you that from an anecdotal basis, but I'm sure you want to hear more from a law enforcement representative, so I'll defer.
If we have time, that would be great. Tell me who to unmute. Chief Gunn, you're already unmuted.
I don't know if we have Commander Tom, either from LAPD can speak to LAPD presence in the area. I know we've had a lot of concerns, and I've had a lot of conversations with LAPD as well.
Okay, Commander Tom is not on right now, but I can text him and see if he wants to be on because he's on his phone.
Oh, there we are. Here's Commander Embrick.
Okay.
And our senior lead officer, Espen, it's nice to see you too.
Okay, so Embrick, you're unmuted. And
hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Commander. I'm LAPD's representative here on the Unified Command Post. And I'm also joined by somebody who doesn't need an introduction to me. It's Senior Lead Officer Ryan Espen. Are we coming in clearly?
you are not coming in so clearly. My guess is someone next to you has their audio on. Can one person turn it off?
I can. Okay, well, I'm going to unmute it, or I'm going to mute it, but we just won't be able to hear anybody, unfortunately. So you know what we can do is we will try to turn off our video to improve the quality of our audio.
Okay, that sounds good. Right now,
okay, is that better? Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so I will speak slowly. So we have on lot 3 established a check-in lot where we can escort residents into resident-only zones, and we are checking IDs. We've come up with a verification process. We've issued instructions to the National Guard at the traffic control points on who is allowed access. We provide them detailed maps on which areas are allowed for resident access only. Additionally, we also send out crime suppression details, and they are instructed to stop people periodically throughout the day. And the most common call that I get, similar to what the supervisor mentioned, was that we do get complaints about people saying that, you know, I'm in an authorized area and your officers jammed me or stopped me to check my ID several times throughout the day. So we feel that they're doing their job, and we've apologized if it became an inconvenience that they have stopped you, but we are doing it in the interest of protecting your property.
Okay.
Additionally,
Brian Espen is suggesting that if people see something suspicious that they call, Brian, go ahead, tell us. You're saying call the police, but I believe there isn't cell reception up there. Is that correct?
yeah, so the information that I kind of received earlier is obviously, like everybody's mentioned, there are people out there trying to scam. They might pose as workers or some sort of uniform, asking to gain access into your residence or your property. Just be vigilant and ask questions. So I wouldn't just allow anybody and everybody onto your property. I would ask for either some sort of credential identification and stuff like that, just to verify. And if it's something that you're not really 100% sure of, then definitely go call the police, the non-emergency line. They will send officers out. If you're in the areas that don't have cell service, unfortunately, you're gonna have to go down to one of the major streets where officers are a little bit more present, or you get cell reception. But definitely call the police, and that way it's more documented, and it's something that our crime suppression units can actually look for. Be very descriptive in what they're wearing, whether it's a reflective vest, jacket, stuff like that. So. And you know, to close out the question as far as how we protect you and your property as these areas reopen. So one of the things that we've done is we've geofenced the entire Pacific Palisades burn area, because we know that you guys have been having problems. Brian explained this to me with kids who have been entering into your neighborhoods on e-scooters and e-bikes. So we geofenced the entire area. So we called all of the rental companies and had this area turned off, so the scooters will not operate. We still have that geofencing active. Additionally, the department has ordered 50 flock camera systems. We've mentioned this also to the Brentwood community. And what we're doing is we are studying what structures that you guys do have up. We're paying attention to crime trends. And we're going to place those 50 cameras throughout your communities. These 50 cameras will act as license plate readers. And if somebody comes into your community in a stolen car or a car that has a warrant on it, it will notify us immediately, and we will dispatch our crime suppression units. We've also come up with a quicker dispatch system so that all of your community in Pacific Palisades, we understand it requires more patrol than usual, because some of your properties are only damaged or they're red tagged, so they're uninhabitable, but they still have your valuables in them. So
we know that our officers need to be there in a higher quantity. So we've also designated zones. So if you have a call for service within Pacific Palisades, within Brentwood, our communications division will directly dispatch an officer quickly to your area because they know which specialized units are working crime suppression in your area. And finally, we've also provided a quick access number to our firefighters and utilities so that they can call from the field if they're working in Palisades or in Brentwood. That will directly dispatch from Will Rogers Beach officers to respond to your neighborhood.
Miriam, I'd like to do it's not really a follow-up, it's something that the officers may be able to shed light on. So one resident says there are a number of neighborhoods that are largely intact, for example, Surfree Drive, but they are being treated the same as other neighborhoods that are 80 to 90% burned to the ground. Can there be different approaches to allow residents to return for an hour or eventually permanently? Also, there is a disconnect between the Sheriff's Department and LAPD. So residents are getting mixed messages about ability to return to homes. And that's something that I've heard from many people about mixed messages. So could someone address that, either the officers or, perhaps the supervisor or
yes,
councilwoman?
Chris, I hate to interrupt, but we need an answer to that question. But I think that's going to have to be our last, because we're trying to wrap up by 8:30 tonight, if possible.
Yeah, this is exactly the issue that somebody was upset about, and if Steve's on here, thank you, Steve, for calling us to help us fix the communication problem. There was miscommunication on the ground. Our captain from the Lost Hills station came and personally coordinated to make sure that that access point was addressed, so that way there is better communication. But I do know that every morning at Incident Command, all of the agencies sort of have it out. There's like a whole debate that happens in advance, as was described earlier. From law enforcement perspective, we think this neighborhood is ready to go. Fire department says maybe not, or vice versa. So not to blame one agency over another, but all of them are at the table. All of them are giving sort of their status report. From a public works or utilities perspective, we're not ready, even if fire says we are. So all of that debate happens, and that goes into the announcement at noon of which zones are opened up. So that is also a place where all of our agencies are able to coordinate communication, and it is really helpful to hear that on the ground when you're running into these issues. So we make sure that the lines of communication between agencies are fixed. And we are taking into account if neighborhoods are largely intact. But again, as I said earlier, if they are connected more broadly to some of the infrastructure that is, of greater impact in some of the other areas, that may be contributing to why they will take some time to repopulate an area, even if the buildings themselves seem to be standing.
Thank you, Supervisor. There are a couple of questions that have to do with soils and soil removal and toxicity. Would it be safe to say when people come to the debris removal meetings, they will get more of those answers?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you don't want to wait, again, that 844 number is there for you starting tomorrow morning.
We put it back in the chat twice, folks. 844 in the chat twice. Okay. Sue Cole, totally up to you. Of course, there are more questions and there are people, but up to you.
Well, if you want to go maybe 15 more minutes.
That's fine.
Okay, so there are people who appreciate the work that you do, and they appreciate the information that's been shared here. I'm going to skip over the debris questions if you all don't mind, because there are community meetings coming around the corner for debris removal. There are people who have homes standing there when they're wondering if debris removal will apply to them. Should we be telling people with homes standing to still come to the debris removal meetings?
Yes, if they have questions about debris removal, they should come. If your home is still standing, you may want to understand what debris removal is going to look like around your home. You may have questions around whether you want any debris removal done on your property, even if your home is still standing. So a lot of those kinds of questions will be answered.
Okay, great. California Fair Plan, since it's been made clear that conditions will remain hazardous in the area for months, are there government officials or organizations to reach out to help advocate for individuals against their insurance companies that are forcing them back in? Any advice there, or do we go to Ben Allen and the Insurance Commission?
Well, I know in a meeting we had with the Senate Pro Tem over the weekend, the insurance commissioner was represented there, and a lot of pressure was put on them to bring the FAIR Plan representatives into the disaster recovery centers, because that was a space where people have gotten a lot of help, and that was one aspect that was not as helpful. They, sort of missing from the conversation. So I know that that's something that they are trying to get the FAIR Plan representatives to come and be on site at these disaster recovery centers to address questions like that.
Okay,
and I ask a somewhat related, this is insurance related question. This person asks, and by the way, this is something I've heard not just in the chat, but from several other people. Some policyholders have had their insurance adjusters refuse to advance any monies until they get up to examine the house, which they can't do because of evacuation. People are desperate to get funds. Can authorities do something about that with the insurance commissioner?
So I do know that some of there was a period of time where there was an escort program for some of those officials to come out and see property. And then I also know anecdotally that there were concerns about that if adjusters got in there before residents did, and you ended up in an adversarial posture, that, we were disadvantaging residents by allowing their insurance representatives to go, but not the residents themselves. So I think that there's sort of an equity issue at work there. That's as much as I can speak to in terms of return. But I think specifically how the insurance companies are conducting themselves, I would encourage you to speak with the insurance commissioner.
Okay, I think we've made a promise of having follow-up meetings about specific issues. So Sue, maybe insurance is something we can follow up on. Ladies, the resource center apparently is not going to go on forever. Apparently will close, I heard 2 weeks. But is that the case, or will it continue for as long as there's demand? Because the FAIR Plan people aren't there yet. And if they're coming, one might assume that resource fair will continue.
There has been a virtual option. The governor issued a press release today announcing a virtual option. So all of the agencies that you can access in person at the Disaster Recovery Center, there's now a virtual option for you to be able to access them online, because I know not everyone can get to the Westside Pavilion or Pasadena City College. So that's another way that they've tried to expand access to these resources. And I can look up that information and make sure to get it to you, Miriam, so you can share it with everyone. But it was put out in a press release today. And I will make sure that we notify your community in advance of disaster recovery centers being closed, so that it doesn't come by surprise, that that you make sure that we make sure we have an option for your questions to be answered if they are planning to close the disaster recovery centers.
Right now, what's the plan?
I'm sorry?
Right now, what is the plan in terms of?
I am not aware of any timeline on which they are going to be closed. So, so I will make sure that I get that information and share it with your community.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm dropping something into the chat. It's insurance assistance that was sent to me after that Senate meeting that you were mentioning, Supervisor Horvath. Apparently, there's a number you can call and a place you can go online to drop your concerns and get some answers. And then there's also a Pasadena. There's a Pasadena fair, right?
There's a Pasadena Pasadena City College has all of the same services that exist at the Westside Pavilion, the UCLA Research Park location. So if for whatever reason the Pasadena City College location is more convenient for you, all of the same services are available there.
Okay, that's in the chat. Thank you.
Oh,
right.
there's a comment from the mayor's deputy chief of staff, Jenny Delwood. She can answer the question about the recovery center, if you want to call on Jenny.
Yes. Jenny, are you in as Jenny Delwood?
I think so.
Okay, you're unmuted.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
So the Disaster Recovery Center should be open at least for 30 days. So we open on the 15th. So absolutely will be open until February 15th. We will continue to assess need. If folks want to continue to come, we'll be open for up to 90 days.
Great.
So if folks are still coming in person for all the resources, we are currently open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Westside Pavilion, or what was formerly the Westside Pavilion on Pico and Westwood. And hours may change slightly after the first 2 weeks. So this next Wednesday, we're assessing. A lot of folks are not coming in the evenings, but we are open all day and will continue to be open on the weekend. So there might be a slight change in the evening times, but we're likely to be open given the severity of the need, the full 90-day period. And that includes the FEMA resources, the Small Business Association resources, or SBA, which also include home loan resources, all of the county, state, and city resources all found in one place. So please do come in person. You can actually get things really done on site, like a new passport, a new driver's license, a new social security card. Some folks have said that they've really been able to get everything done, including a new deed to their house, in less than 3 hours. So we highly recommend coming by, and we'll continue to be open. We're pushing for the longer duration of the full 90 days. So all the way through April.
Okay, thank you, Jen, from the mayor's office. You guys, there are several questions about just general safety of areas. Is there a place where people can go, call, maybe email to find out? I mean, now there's a question of, will Rustic Canyon be safe? Will the kids going to camp be safe? You know, do they have to wait 18 months? And as you all know, Rustic Canyon, much of it is left intact. Are those questions you can answer, or is there a place where people can go? Maybe it's CalFire Incident Command, anywhere where they can say, you know, is a certain area safe for the kids to go out, for, you know, the park to be used, whatever the case may be?
I would say at this moment, we do not have enough information to say with certainty that it is okay to be outside for outdoor activity. In fact, we are strongly recommending that you stay indoors if you are in a fire impacted area. And if you are outside, to wear an N95 mask. While there are studies being conducted on the air quality, not everything that is measured by some of our typical measurements accounts for the particulates and everything that is currently in the air as a result of this particular fire and the toxins that exist in this neighborhood. So I understand that you want to have a safe place to take your children out to play. I would not say that it is a park in this burn area until we have more information. We've conducted further study on that.
Okay, so I paraphrased that and I put it in the chat with your permission. Okay, so I'm scrolling up to look for more questions.
Well,
Chris, you might be getting them by email.
well, I see here's one that has to do with safety of water. This person asks, can we learn more about the water testing? Was benzene the only analyte tested? And was it found not harmful to health, or was it actually non-elevated versus pre-fire examples? That was the question. Can anyone answer that?
I would defer to the Water Authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raising his hand.
Can you unmute Jonathan?
Sure, coming up. Oh, he is on mute.
He's muted.
He's got he was on mute and I clicked on. John, can you unmute? Do you see your request to unmute? There we go.
My request, but you really want to see Jonathan Leung. He would be the person to speak on water.
And there you go, Mr. Leung, please unmute. There you go.
All right. Okay. So yeah, what they've observed as far as volatile organic compounds, there's about 16 of them that are most commonly found. So we've tested for benzene and those. Benzene was non-detect. Benzene has a very low MCL, 1 part per billion. But as far as the other ones, again, non-detect or just consistent with what we have in the system. So I think for those initial samples, we've done 11 in the Palisades area. I think we've collected close to 12 in the Brentwood adjacent areas. So everything looks encouraging. We do look forward to, again, working with the Division of Drinking Water to have a comprehensive testing plan. We will be testing over hundreds of sites, service lines close to damaged structures, and again, look forward to having that information and to share that with everyone to, again, hopefully reassure that the water is safe. But again, some patients, the process may take a few weeks to ultimately get all the way through.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in the chat. Officer Espin, are you still on? Let's see. Someone remind me where Officer Espin was. He was at.
He was with his friends in the office.
Yeah, what was the name of Central Command? Okay, well, Brian, I texted it to you, but is there an LAPD
There
telephone?
they are, Miriam. LAPD, Commander Steve.
Steve Embrick, okay. You're being asked to unmute. The question is there an LAPD telephone number to call to see if my zone is available for an LAPD escort? My question for you is there such thing as an LAPD escort? Or, we assume that you guys are in charge, but maybe you're not. Can you clarify that?
So the opening process that we agreed to with the Sheriff's Department is when we open an area, we open it for the first 24 hours for residents only. And that is to give you the consideration before it's open to the general public and everybody has access to your property. We allow you to get there first. All residents we can valid, so we verify your ID and we provide an escort up to your neighborhood, not your specific property, and you're allowed to go there. If you want to take an insurance adjuster with you, we are allowing that. We've checked that with our city attorney, and that's a permissible process, but they have to be in the same car with you.
Okay.
Following that period, we're going to open it to all access. This escorting period, we don't see existing for more than another week. So you won't have to worry about that. As far as dispatch, the number available to the public, just call 911. The PSRs or call takers downtown know that if any calls for service come from the Palisades Fire area, and that includes Brentwood as well, they will automatically look at a map that we provided them that breaks up the Brentwood and Palisades area into zones, and they will directly contact the crime suppression unit that is driving around in that neighborhood. So you should have a much quicker response than normally.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Miriam, there was a question, but I can't find it now, but I'll try to paraphrase. One of the residents was asking if they can get in, even though their area is not certified for, return before the rains, because to sift through stuff before it becomes really impossible after the rains, even for a short period of time, would that be possible? Can anyone answer that?
Councilmember, I'm asking you to
Got it. Thank you, Miriam. Can you hear me? Good. I would defer again to Incident Command, who makes these decisions as part of their morning briefing, and those reopened zones are announced at noon, as the supervisor has shared. I don't think I don't have any information that they're going to just be allowing folks into zones that are not otherwise open for an hour or two in the next couple of days. But I do think that overall, in coming days, you're going to see much more widespread access within many zones in the Palisades. But I can't say that they are going to have more or much more available between now and when we're expecting the wet weather. But if we still have folks on from Incident Command who may have additional information, I know we'd like to hear it.
Again, this is Flegel from the fire department here in the Unified Command, and we do have a process. We're going through the process, and it's just going to take time. So we do have a method to our madness, and again, with all the other people that we have to make sure that the power, water, gas is shut off, and we're working through that. And again, 24 hours a day, we're working through that process. So again, every day at noon, we open up a new area, and we're working through that to get it done within the week.
Okay, thank you. So before the rains, people have to just be patient. I know each of your offices have crews that are looking for locations that might be vulnerable. Is that as good as it gets? Yeah, okay. Another question is the safe deposit vaults at the banks, maybe this will be the last one, including Chase, Bank of America, et cetera. Is there any police or anyone securing them, and can anyone comment on the status? So are those crews back in to take a look at the vaults? And if they're not, is somebody keeping an eye on them?
Yes,
Supervisor,
you asked me this question, Miriam, and I made sure that we went out and asked, and they are monitoring those vaults. They have made sure that they are there, that they haven't been broken into. They are aware of where they exist on the respective bank properties. So they are aware of them, and the authorities are monitoring them.
Okay.
And just to reassure folks, there is a very, very, very heavy presence in that area.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was a question in the chat. I will drop in the response. Dropped. Okay. Chris, I'm scrolling.
Can I just do one last question that perhaps can't be answered tonight, but I think it's something that our officials should be aware of and thinking about as we go forward. And this person who's known to a lot of us asks, what can be done about evacuation plans going forward? That's a huge issue. There were a lot of problems in this. Pacific Palisades Community Council has been worried about evacuation, ingress and egress problems for years. It's something we're harping on all the time. The problems were borne out to a great degree during this devastating event. So hopefully you can keep in mind that we need to develop something better than what we now had, which is basically non-existent. Thanks.
It's a great question, and it is an important subject. It is something that has been on the top of minds for Palisadians for years, other communities in CD11, including Brentwood and others too. We all know there are limited routes for ingress and egress into the Palisades. We all know that we've got some real challenging streets, real windy, narrow roads. We have some roads that our own fire department can't even get up or make a turnaround on. And so you have my commitment as we are working on our recovery and rebuilding plans to ensure that we have adequate ingress and egress, and that we are centering that in our conversations as we plan our way forward to make sure that what we are building is better and more sustainable and safer.
So as you know, our vice president has asked if we can widen the streets as we rebuild the Palisades. You both heard him say it on Saturday, so maybe something to tuck under your belts.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for some transportation improvements and ways to address ingress and egress and traffic. And if we're doing this anyway, we might as well do it all at once.
Excellent.
And I know that on the county side, we have a motion next week on a report evaluating our emergency alert system as well as evacuation routes. I know that from our emergency preparedness trainings that we've done throughout the district, we have heard from our first responders that evacuation routes are determined to the extent possible in advance of fires, but depending on where a fire breaks out, will determine evacuation routes, on the ground in real time. So there is some advanced planning that happens, but there's also, depending on where the fire comes from and how the wind is moving, that will also determine what an evacuation route pattern looks like as well. So we are doing a report back, to an after action on those two pieces. I'm sure the city will be doing the same thing.
As are we, and there are a number of independent inquiries, including the evacuation process, that we will be looking at as well.
Okay, last question. You have somebody has crews going around and tagging homes. They're either red, green, or yellow, right? So the question is, who is the city, state, or county agency that's doing that? And what does it represent? Does that mean that a home is damaged, standing, smoke, ash? The question is, what are those tags? Red, green, and yellow.
DWP, maybe we can have them chime on and give the explanation.
All right, Mr. Lung, you are.
I haven't seen any yellows. I've seen reds and greens.
Yeah, I would not be the person to answer that question. Sorry.
So you guys, this is Tom
Sorry, I'm
Vanderhorst.
sorry. It may have been building and safety. I apologize, DWP. It may have been building and safety. I misspoke.
Someone's answering.
They are up at the rec center. It is building and safety doing those inspections, and they're making that determination with the tags.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're here, and I apologize for that. And I don't want to speculate, but red, obviously, there's major issues with the building. Green, I would say just generally appears to be intact. But what the nuanced distinctions and what level of access that may give you, or what implication that something is safe, I would caution you about.
So I can tell you on our GIS system that they feed into, if it is a red tag, it means more than 50% destroyed. If it's green, it's less than 10%, and yellow's right between those two. So black means that there's no damage. That's on our GIS system. I don't know for sure that equates, but it looks pretty consistent with what they're feeding into our GIS.
So it's just the building. It's not toxicity or safety for rehabilitation. It's just the state of the building.
Yes, and you may have a green tag on a home that is in a position that's at risk for mud or debris flow. It's not an indication that it's otherwise safe. It's just about the structure as it stands in this moment.
Okay, got it. Legal information, where can we obtain legal information in regards to, for people who have loans on a property that burned, taxes, all of this? That's the county assessor, but anything more on that? And thank you, Supervisor, for putting us in touch with the county assessor.
I would definitely say the county assessor, and I can't stress the importance of the insurance commissioner enough either. And I just, for those of you who know me, I don't generally think all that highly of government regulators and bureaucrats. The Department of Insurance is great. They are there as the policyholder advocate. They're there as the watchdog to ensure that policyholders get all of the benefits that they are entitled to under their contracts. So really important step in that. For legal advice, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know that there may be some legal advice in the disaster recovery centers, but I don't know. Be careful who you get legal advice from too.
Get it from a lawyer.
We'll try to address that.
Just as I said in my remarks, just trust who you're talking to and make sure you're taking advice and information from known sources.
Okay, I think it's time to wrap up tonight, but I want everyone to be assured that we will be having more meetings. We're in the planning stages already. We'll have more agencies, more meetings. And if any of you are not signed up for our MailChimps, please go to our website, pacpaliscc.org, sign up for the MailChimps so that you are informed about all of the information we get and all of the meetings we're going to have. There's a lot of information in there. So please sign up. And thank you so much to all of you who came to help us tonight and answer questions. I think we actually got through a lot of questions and a lot of information. And I know everyone just appreciates it so much. We're all so hungry for help and information, and you guys have really provided a tremendous service tonight. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all. We will save the chat and we'll turn these answers around as quickly as we can. Thank you to everybody and your staff. All of your staff have been amazing. They've been on the ground every day. They're responsive to everything, all hours of the night and the morning. I'm not sure when they sleep, but thanks to all of you and your staff and all that you're doing for Pacific Palisades to make sure we rebuild and rise again from the ashes, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
I'm afraid to turn off the chat. Off the Zoom because I want to make sure the chat is saved. Period.